This is our small SUV comparison with the Toyota Corolla Cross versus the Toyota Yaris Cross versus the sister or brother, the Lexus LBX of the Yaris Cross and the Toyota CHR, this was it for the Toyota Corporation lineup, versus the VW T-Roc, versus the VW Taos, which is sold in the Northern American market, versus the Honda HR-V and the Honda ZR-V, whereas the Honda ZR-V in Europe is the HR-V sold in Northern America. Yeah, I'm not sure why they sometimes make it so complicated. Versus the Nissan Juke and also the Dacia Duster. So, you know, a lot of different vehicles here, a lot of different brands. And we're going to take a look which one is the best choice for you, which one has which strength in which respective field. Let's take a look at the in-depth reviews. Let's go.
This SUV here will be one of the most important SUVs in the years to come. It is the Toyota Corolla Cross. Here was Thomas, an Autogefühl for you. Well, the name Corolla stands for itself. The normal compact car, the Toyota Corolla, the most sold vehicle overall worldwide, over 50 million times, and they want to continue this success story with this compact SUV. That's why the naming then Toyota Corolla Cross, and also fitting to that segment. They want to sell over 400,000 pieces a year with that one here. And it's very interesting because already internally in the Toyota brand, it sits between the CHR and the RAV4 size-wise. And there's also the new very small brother, the Toyota Yaris Cross. We also have both of these vehicles here in the yellow or golden car, the Yaris Cross, and then the new Corolla Cross next to it. And they differ quite a lot in size. I will also tell you soon more about that. But let's start here with the front. A very bold front. It's kind of like a baby RAV4 already from the looks. It looks really strong for this compact SUV segment. I think Toyota recently had, especially when I think about the CHR for example, they had some design methods where maybe weren't that ideal. But this one looks amazing and really bold, doesn't it? This color is called, how's it called again, Brian?
Cement.
Cement, right? They really call it cement. Porsche calls it chalk white or chalk gray, and Toyota calls it cement. Thanks, Brian. Brian's behind the camera today. And he'll also give you a segment later about the British perspective and the perspective of a family father of this vehicle. But now let's continue with my German perspective. And I say, like, design-wise, is really great. One of the best looking compact SUVs right now. So the cement gray color, especially fitting to the vehicle, bold front grille, and also the headlamps in very modern form, daytime running light. I think they really nailed it here design-wise. Contrasting black right here. What do you think? The length here of the Toyota Corolla Cross is 4.46 meters or 176 inches. And that is particularly interesting indeed because it sits also between a lot of the competitors. It is longer than the Honda HR-V, a Mazda CX-30, a Volkswagen T-Roc, and it's a little bit shorter than the Mazda CX-5 or the VW Tiguan or the Honda CR-V. And this position in between makes it kind of ready to attack all of the competitors at the same time. Very interesting proposal. 17 or optional 18-inch wheels. We have the bigger ones right here. Then we have these crossover wheel arches, kind of like trapeze or trapezoid style. Once again, I think very bold statement for a compact SUV. Also here with the contrasting cladding. And then we have the interesting, very premium-like touch with the Corolla Cross lettering here. So this looks off-roadish, right? I mean, we also have some soft off-roading in our driving part today. In the rear, also a very consistent design, horizontal, these tail lamps here, and not much playing around. Once again, bold statement, contrasting colors, but not too much. And also no fake exhaust whatsoever. I think this is really a good example of how to design a modern SUV. It goes, by the way, top speed 180 kilometers an hour or 112 miles an hour. T-fob is very light and simple, does the job, defo. And then the doors here with door closing sound, let's see. Well, that doesn't sound good at all. Well, that's one catch, but what about the interior? Well, here at the inside of the doors, that's soft touch and it looks nice. It has kind of like a leather surface, I would say, but it is not leather. But not animal leather, so like a like a leatherette kind of surface, but looks really high class indeed. And also here the door handle from the inside. So this is a step up the game by Toyota. Some space at the inside of the doors here as well. And then this interior, it does remind us of some other models, of course. And here the steering wheel with real buttons still. That's good to have, that you can real click on that thing. Everything resonates very well with that quality here. This is hardpick here at the left side. This as well, but this one also here too. But it looks actually quite nice with that kind of stamped in surface structure. That's cool. The seats, you either get base fabric seats, black, or in US also in the bright style. Higher trims come with Softex high-grade leatherette on the American market. However, in the European market, Toyota still sells these here containing animal parts. Seating position, it's actually really good. It's very comfortable from the seats. They are not too much caging you in, yet at the same they do offer you side support. They're quite sporty actually, but not too sporty. So I think they found a great seating, really good ergonomics from the seats. The position here, you can put the steering wheel in and out, up and down, so you can find a very good driving position. It already feels like a grown-up SUV indeed, without being too big for some purposes, like a RAV4 or a VW Tiguan or something. The Tiguan Allspace, of course, is a little bit longer. That would be the base Tiguan in the US. So yeah, I think this is a very nice feeling and good, in-between segment they found here between the CHR and the RAV4 for them. Headroom here with 189 or 602. Yeah, plenty of headroom left, no problem at all. Base would be 7-inch screen with analog gauges. These here are the optional 12.3-inch full digital instruments. And they also have nice visualizations for the driving mode, like here the power mode, the eco mode, or the normal mode, which rather has to do with throttle input, for example. And you always have a nice digital speedometer right there, so it does the job. And of course the consumption, that one went up when we're going uphill and off-roading. You can score better consumption figures, like 5 liters on 1 kilometers on motorway driving, 1 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. That would be like 47 mpg US, 56 mpg UK, and even better actually when you had a little bit less fast driving and make more use of that hybrid drivetrain. The dashboard here in the lower area has a nice leatherette texture and also has some kind of soft touch top. That's really nice. And also here, the glove box is dampened. That's nice actually, quality wise. And then, well, just when shutting it, it makes a typical noise, but I can live with that. Then here, this middle console right there, this is the automatic shifting lever. You also have the drive mode buttons here, and the electric parking brake, and the cup holders, they are a little bit open. They are not adaptive, and I don't like the high gloss black panel lacquer here. And the this one here is not that well attached though, but you have some more space underneath. Here's an area I do appreciate. These buttons here, here for seat heating, high and low, heated steering wheel, they look kind of old school, but in a way, or in a world where everything is now digitalized, this resonates very well. It really has a nice clicking sound, and it gives kind of like tough feeling to the vehicle. That's funny. USB-A chargers here in the front, but also inductive charging pad, and USB-C chargers will be in the back. Infotainment system, you would start with an 8-inch one in the US, but already features Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wireless. And this one here is the bigger 10.25-inch, so just bigger in the screen than here. And actually it does have a GPS you can use. It's maybe not as good as Google Maps or Apple Maps, but the first time we're in a Toyota, and I also saw the shuttle drivers using the Toyota internal GPS. So that speaks for it indeed. So, and then the base system here, I deactivate this beeping sound because it drives you nuts, by the way. It doesn't have too much things, but most of the time you will use it for the smartphone mirroring anyway, and that is a very nice large integration of Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So now some music. That is actually a very good sound here in that. Wow, that is amazing. Woo. I mean, this vehicle has some, in a lot of ways premium touch. And by the way, this is here another volume adjustment inside the screen, but there are also real buttons. Well, to turn something for real is the climate unit, and that is also great for the easy user interface. Vent strength is here, but to me the most important is I can actually just change the temperature slightly and easily while driving. Inside of doors, it has a structure, that's nice, but it's actually hard pack. So yeah, I used my door for that, but it looks actually quite decent. The doors do not open that wide. That might be a problem for getting child seats in and out, but you do have Isofix on the outside seats each, and also the nice soft touch leatherette here for the rear seats. You can also change the angle of the seats here a little bit, make them more upright or put them more behind, and the seating comfort is actually quite decent. It is not segment leading in legroom, better than the CHR, but it's getting really close when I'm driving in the front. But if the driver is a little bit smaller, it's fine, and you can use this car with 4 tall adults. That is possible indeed. So better than the CHR. The RAV4, of course, has a little bit more space. And if we take a look at the external competitors, VW T-Roc would be similar. The Tiguan is a little bit better, but it's also the bigger car. Honda has the best package. Already the HRV, the small one, offers great legroom in the rear in comparison to other vehicles in the segment. And the CR-V, of course, really good. So they are not segment leading here, the Toyota Corolla Cross, as for legroom, but headroom is actually totally fine. There's a lot of headroom left, and the quality here in the rear also seems fine. Cup holders are not adaptive though, but everything else feels and looks good. 2 USB-C chargers here in the lower part, by the way. Let's take a look at the trunk or the boot. Brian, you're from the UK. Is it boot at UK, right? It's boot,
That's
right?
boot.
Yeah, boot. So that's why I always say both, trunk and or boot. And in Germany, by the way, it's Kofferraum or Gepäckraum. So Kofferraum is more like suitcase area in a direct translation. Listen and repeat, Kofferraum. That's the new German vocabulary here on Autogefühl today. Yeah, Gepäckraum would be more like loading area, and you can say both actually. 430 liters it is here, or 25 cubic feet. Let's take a detailed look. The only thing I don't like is this cover here. I mean, it doesn't have a sharp edge. That's good. So that's, no problem. But here you don't have any gap in here. So you always have to do like this to remove it. You can live with it, but it's not ideal. Here, a lot of space indeed. And these gaps here in the side, they are very well done, because you can use it here, for example, for Brian's laptop bag, or here for my backpack right there. So very well done indeed. And the minimum width here is about 90 centimeters or 35 inches. That's already good. But I mean, here then, if you use then these gaps on the inside, it's like acres of space in width. That's very well done. And here the length is about 85 centimeters or 33 inches. So that's already quite decent. And the height, I mean, there is a small loading sill step here, but that's then meaning you have 80 centimeters or 31 inches of height. That's good. You fold the seats, you can grab over from here. You do have some kind of step then here, because the suitcases are also tied together. So there is this step right here. But then again, you get the full height here. So that, by the way, underneath the cover is nothing in the hybrid version, at least here. So, and then the full length to my seat as I would be driving is about like 165 or 64 inches. Let's take a look at the engines here. So in the US market, for example, most important and the main engine is a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine with around 10 seconds in the acceleration figure. Same acceleration would have the 1.8 hybrid, all 4-cylinder engines. And then there is a 2-liter hybrid we have here today. That's the quickest one with 7.5 seconds in the acceleration figure. This one here is also available as an all-wheel drive version. Then it has an electric motor in the rear, an additional one. The hybrid system here, of course, for better fuel economy. We'll tell you more about that later on. What is interesting is when you go for these hybrid drivetrains, the 1.8 or the 1.8 or the 2-liter hybrid, they have the 5th generation hybrid now. Lithium-ion battery, less weight, more efficiency, more power. If that's all true, we'll find out in the driving part very soon. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge with the Toyota Corolla Cross, and starting here on the motorway, about 80 kilometers an hour, so like 50 miles an hour. Wow, I mean, it behaves very, very well. So it's really silent and smooth. So Brian also, that was one of the first things he told me. when he was entering the car and we were getting on the motorway and just getting off now so I can enter again to give you something of the acceleration, it is indeed super smooth. And let's just, hit the accelerator pedal when we go uphill and go 60 to 80. Let's see how smooth that is. Well, that's it. That was almost 85. It's quite okay, I mean, you still have this CVT-alike feeling, although it's this, e-CVT in the hybrid. So, but it's definitely less than before. So also the acceleration feels less hybrid-alike, I would say. So it indeed feels like a more premium vehicle, I would say, and definitely like a baby RAV4. You sit a little bit lower and it's not that large around you. Yeah, and also like from the things you feel, see, and touch, and so on. This is really a notable upgrade. Also, how the infotainment works and so on. So now at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, and it's still reasonably silent. Although the tarmac here around Barcelona is quite rough indeed and does give a lot of noise. We can also have the adaptive cruise control in this vehicle, depending on the trim level, of course. Set now to about 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. You have different assistance systems. You also have the lane keeping assist, the active one. Now it is active. Let's see how smooth we are kept in the lane actually. See here so far, no hectic steering movements. Very smooth. There's also blind spot monitor. At the moment no one is overtaking us, but there's like a blinking then in the side mirrors. Now it already complains. Unavailable soon, take control of the steering wheel. There we go. So far. And that's also a thing with this vehicle. They get the latest generation of the assistance systems by Toyota. So latest hybrid technology and latest assistance systems. There's the blind spot monitor. When you hit the turning indicator, there's also a flashing of this warning then. And about this hybrid system, the first thing we mentioned to you, so it is more powerful now that you don't get this typical slow feeling, It is still a little bit, yes, and they usually don't put the most powerful engines in these vehicles. That's not what they're best in, but it's definitely a little bit quicker than before. This one here is the 2-liter hybrid we're driving, goes 7.5 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, and that is already quite okay for a car of that size and for this segment, definitely. So at the same time, they say they are more efficient, and at the end of our test drive we'll also try to confirm that. So, and that's the thing, more power yet at the same time more efficiency. How do they actually gain that? A little bit of weight losses. There's lithium-ion battery now being used, and also they reduce the friction inside engine parts, and these are the measures they're trying to achieve that by. So at the moment we're about 5 liters on 1 kilometers, which is a typical Toyota hybrid consumption, and we'll see if we can also keep that up at a later stage when we drove for a little bit further. But considering this is motorway driving here now, which is not the best ideal situation for a hybrid, it's more like when you have city traffic that you can make use of some recuperation, that's totally fine. Also inside the tunnel, which is usually quite loud, it's staying relatively silent. So I'm not sure about you, Brian, but the Toyotas I have been driving, this one seems to be the most silent one as to like noise insulation. What's your take?
I'm actually kind of blown away by this car so far. It really delivers a lot more than I expected of it.
A really nice ride, also suspension-wise, So we also had some rougher roads. We are now at normal average motorway speed, and the suspension is really doing a good job. So it's smooth, but at the same time it's actually like sporty enough. We're here at the moment at 18-inch wheels, once again in that tunnel here, and they also offer 17-inch wheels for entry-level models. They're a little bit later for European market, but I think the 18 are actually quite fine. The 17 will be a softer ride, but this one is a very good compromise, So, and also the feedback I have from the steering, this is really, yeah, like some subtle movements are being transported to the road without being exaggerated. So really, really happy with the steering movement. When we soon get off the motorway, we'll also do some more winding corners that you can experience a little bit more about that.
Now that's where I'm really interested to see. That's where this car is going to prove itself or not.
Yeah,
because two
small,
things that our last driving experience on a Toyota together, do you remember, was in the hills? And
with the Igo X.
There we found some challenges. Well, the famous distinctive Toyota whine you get when you're going up a hill, I'm really excited to see.
But I always show like a short bit. It was definitely better, than before. But it was just a very short hill,
Until we get it on a big hill with lots of windy corners, we're really not going to get a full sense of that.
See here, like a lane change.
That's nice.
It's nice, like really smooth. Like, let's change it back.
Really nice.
It feels actually like almost kind of sporty. We also have the drive modes here. There's the power drive mode as well. Oh, that changes like eco, normal. That was the side of the road. Yeah, the power mode, but let's see if the steering changes. Power mode, eco. Nah, not really. So it's more about the throttle input, that from a power mode we have more reaction in the throttle pedal. That's fast. Yeah, always the Germans, right? In the Audis. We are the non-Germans today. So like this automatic thing. I'm not sure if if you're from Spain, maybe it would drive me nuts. So that is something I really appreciate about German Autobahn, the German motorways. That, we pay our taxes, and we pay a lot of taxes in Germany. At least we can use the motorways then for free. So 30 kilometers an hour. Let's bump. Oh, it's good suspension test. Feels quite smooth as well, right? So now 40 kilometers an hour. Let's go uphill. 60, 90. That's okay. That's really okay. It is not a super fast car. That's not how it's supposed to be.
You know what, Thomas? I'm going to say something really shocking and controversial now.
Yes.
If you blindfolded me and you blocked my ears, and that bit's important, I could almost think I was driving in a BMW.
Really?
The characteristic, the quality of the experience too. The seats are really good.
I think that might be the last time I could send Brian to a BMW event. if BMW guys are watching this.
I did say you got to lose the sound, and I think that's quite an important component of the car.
Yeah.
But the drive is really good in this car.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And so you definitely have less of this annoying, like stretching, feeling like it really feels so much more refined. So yeah, I'm really a fan of this new 5th generation powertrain of the hybrids. There will also be a natural aspirated engine for the US guys available. So basically this engine without the hybrid, that will be lower in the entry price and so on. But also this one, of course, profits a little bit from the upgrades this car is experiencing without the hybrid thing, of course. Then let's go back to the normal. The driving modes, they are nice visualized here in the cockpit, but don't play too much of a role. But also on the motorway, we're going downhill a little bit. I'm in the EV mode, so at the moment the combustion engine is shut off. And then I have some more buffer boost once again when I'm going uphill now. This will play more effect, of course, in the city, because in the city, like this starting from zero, takes so much fuel usually that when you get this small EV kick, it does save a lot of fuel. But even here on the motorway, at least it does something when you have some topography changes. When you don't have that, it doesn't play such a big role actually. So yeah, that is so really, really positive impression here on the motorway, yet both from Brian and me. The question is now, how can it perform when we go a little bit sportier in winding roads and more up and down? Let's find out. So now I'll put it once again to the power mode. Go Power Rangers. And let's see. Yeah, of course you get something of that sound, but it does disappear way quicker. Let's see, we go in these nice winding roads here now. Steering feels actually quite good. It is light, definitely. I mean, the power mode could have used some, let's say, it's now a little bit off-road. That's also good for test suspension. So I think the power mode could have used some steering adjustment. That's definitely good. So that you have a little bit more feedback. But in general, I think the steering is really nice, you know. So, well, and it is a crossover SUV, so some soft off-roading can't be bad. Here's some, well, there are some bumps, but the suspension is doing a really good job still, you know. I need to drive a little bit slower here now. I mean, that can be, depending on the market, also be very relevant. And the good thing is, this is smaller than the RAV4, so this is also an advantage that when it gets narrower like this, and you have some passengers. I mean, this was totally unexpected now. The GPS didn't show it. It's doing a great job. So this is the front-wheel drive version of the hybrid. There will also be the all-wheel drive version. Then you have an electric motor in the rear. So if this is relevant to you and you have more of these off-road situations, that could be something. The acceleration figure does not really differ. It's like 0.1 seconds that the all-wheel drive is quicker. But here, now uphill again, it's really excellent. So I really have to say, from the whole drivetrain, from the noise insulation, from how the car handles, I mean, leaving aside like special versions, like, you know, like a Toyota Supra or something, which has these BMW genes, you know, as a sports car. But let's say, talking normal cars or SUVs at Toyota, I think this is easily the best Toyota I have ever driven. And yeah, Brian is just nodding. So, because it does everything very, very well and smooth. It is fun, it is comfortable, it gives you almost kind of serenity, although it's not the biggest car, you know, while driving.
But it's still a Toyota.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, a lot of the time when you buy a Toyota, you have to kind of shrug your shoulders and make your peace with it and say, but at least I got a great car out of it.
Yeah.
I just have to live with it. I don't think you have to live with this at all. I think you get this
really
car
nice.
and you say, great, this is actually exactly what I want.
Yeah. Now, winding roads again, tarmac. Yeah, maybe a little bit more feedback from the steering wheel, but that's just a feeling thing. But, you know, the thing is, it is kind of precise, and it also reacts on short movements without exaggerating. So they also got a quite good steering feel here over these bumps. Even if I go over them in a little bit faster way, it doesn't, you know, crush our lower back or something. I would maybe stick with the base version of the car to get fabric seats. That these will be available in Europe, already available in the US. If you want it more breathable, you know, it's breathable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's breathable. Yeah. This just is better for a hot climate, I would say. I can just stress again, it handles very well. It doesn't shake up too much. The steering is also fine. So from the whole driving characteristic, yeah, I mean, this typical, you know, there is no gearing, you know, feeling. It is still somewhat there, but definitely less than before. So it's not a big issue then, and it's also not lacking power. I mean, we're going uphill, and it's defo not lacking power, you know. So, and yes, now the consumption went up a little, but as long as we were keeping it straight. So even motorway is some 5 liters on 1 kilometers, and that can be less when you have some city driving only and really make use of this hybrid drivetrain. And this can be very dangerous to a lot of the competitors. And we were still debating, is it, I think it can already be compared to a Mazda CX-5, and maybe already to a VW Tiguan or a T-Roc, Honda HR-V or CR-V. It is somewhat in between, and therefore can be dangerous for all of them, I guess.
I think so too, and I think it's a really well-positioned offering, because there's definitely something within the market that says, I want a little bigger but not that bigger. And I think Mazda have proved with the 5 just how popular that vehicle is.
Yeah.
This brings something genuinely new into that segment, and I really think you have to give it to Toyota. This to me is knocked it out of the park. The only thing, obviously, always is the fly in the ointment, is will the pricing match within the segment?
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's the big difference indeed. Here in Europe, they start selling it as a high spec. In the US, you can also get a low spec, low price, or some kiddies. But also European market will get some cheaper versions later on. But yeah, you have to see if the price does match for you.
The first thing that happens when you have children is that everyone and their dog tells you you're going to need everything to be bigger, because these creatures are going to turn up and destroy your life, make mess everywhere, and take up all of your room. Well, one of those statements is true, and it's the one about the space. But you don't need to have a bus just because you've got kids. And that's the first thing I really love about this car. Yes, you need more room. No, you don't have to have a caravan towing behind you with all of their equipment in. This car is a really great compromise between still very definitely feeling like a smaller SUV, but providing you with more than enough space than you're ever going to need for your children and their friends and their equipment, provided you're good at managing yourself and your family. Now, not only that, but Toyota is an incredibly practical brand. So yes, soft plastic, hard plastic, 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 plastic. But you know what? That means it's really easy to keep, maintain and care for. And easy to clean, and that's important. But that is all about owning this vehicle as a family. Now, I just want to make sure you're clear, it's not all Toyota fanboy stuff over here. And Toyota don't get everything right. Look at this. So that's hardly a 90-degree door open. And given that your children are going to be opening and abusing this door 1,000 times every day, I think they could have done a slightly better job. You know who did do a slightly better job? The Mazda CX-5. And let's be honest, most of the time you're going to be driving any vehicle you bought for family use is just going to be you all by yourself, more likely than not, taking 4,000 trips every single week to the supermarket. So how does it perform on that basis? Well, this is where I really love this car. It takes all of the best features of the RAV4 and it shrinks them down, making them more fun, more practical, and just better. My next door neighbour has a RAV4 and it's never made me smile ever since he got it. It's not that it's bad, it's excellent for all the reasons that it's so popular. It's just a bit, you know, it's not going to put a smile on your face. This keeps all of the best features of the RAV4 and improves on all of them, including the drive. So the only reason to get a RAV4, and this is what I'm saying to you, is if you really convince yourself you absolutely have to have the space. Well, I've got 3 kids. I know that, and a dog, because I count them every day. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need the space. You can make it work. And this car is going to keep you smiling when they're not in it as much as it will when they are. So, I hope you're going to enjoy this as much as I've enjoyed driving this, but please let us know.
This is here the updated Toyota Yaris Cross. It is actually the most sold Toyota in Europe. In 2023, over 200,000 pieces were sold. Why is it? Why is it so popular in Europe actually? And by the way, my father-in-law has one of this, the pre-facelift one. So maybe at the end of the review, I can tell him, get the updated one, or is it not that important? We'll find out everything for you. Thomas Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. The GR Sport, this is a special sporty line, the one I have right here, together with the gray, fitting cloth color as well. And the GR Sport here has this honeycomb design in the sporty racing style. So makes it a little bit spiced up, so to speak. Headlamps, you can also get optional matrix LED for the Yaris Cross. And the wheels start 16-inch. An option you can get even up to 18-inch, the ones you can see here. The crossover cladding here is really large. And the length it's really small, actually 4 meters 18 or 165 inches. But how much space will we have in the interior, we'll find out soon. Here in the GR Sport, together with the gray, I think it's a very cool design. Daring, but not too daring. That's at least my take. What do you think? Also important, what are the major upgrades now? First of all, NVH, noise, vibration, harshness. That's the expression in the automotive industry for what you hear on the inside from what's happening on the outside, like wind noises, rattling noises, everything and so on from the engine. And they have upgraded that. So first of all, they have now an acoustic front windshield. That's the first big upgrade. Then they have thicker side windows. That's the second biggest upgrade. And some other smaller improvements. And I'm really looking forward, if I notice that while driving, also the engine is supposed to be better insulated from the interior cabin. So this will all make the car and the drive a little bit more silent. At the same time, you get more power. Under the hood, you have a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder hybrid. There we go, no gas struts, so we put it right here. This is it, and either 116 horsepower or now also a version with 130 horsepower, that's new. 10.7 seconds is the acceleration figure for the front-wheel drive, and you also can get optional electric all-wheel drive, so you have an electric mode at the rear axle then. That is then half a second slower than the front-wheel drive version. However, this front-wheel drive version in comparison to the predecessor is a second quicker than in the overall acceleration figure. So this will help you especially like when overtaking. Also like this mid-range, acceleration thing, especially for overtaking on a motorway and some. This is also something that Toyota says they have fixed now or made it a little bit quicker. That's a little bit more comfortable for you to drive it because yes, obviously they are not the most powerful and sporty engines in the world, but they at least tried to make it a little bit better. The overall hybrid drivetrain has also been updated, so probably we will also get a little bit better mileage. In the shade here, you can better see the shape of the vehicle. That's awesome, right? And also here, the rear light strip. I think it looks really cool. It has like an inbuilt rear wing, but then you can see the light signature when it's on. It's just outside, but not inside. A little bit deceiving, isn't it? Then the GR Sport has this massive, it's like a small SUV, and it's like a huge diffuser sports car style. Look at that with the honeycomb structure. Wow. 170 kilometers an hour is, by the way, the top speed for this one. And you get the GR Sport badge. And the big question is, of course, what does fit in the trunk? 400 liters. We have 320 actually for the all-wheel drive model because you lose a little bit, because of the all-wheel drive system. And this is a very interesting splitter here. But first of all, the measurements quickly. This is 1.40 meters in width, and this is here 80 centimeters or 31 inches in length. Not too bad indeed. And this here, then the split here, you can do it like this underneath if you want to store it like this, or you can also put the whole thing out. That would also be possible, and yeah, they are not too heavy actually, so yeah, why not? Unusual, but why not? Underneath could be also used for a full spare tire if you like that. And the way you put that one in, then you have not such a high loading still, or maybe you could put something underneath and so on. This cover here has pro and con. On the one hand, you see it's like wobbly, and what about the quality? But then actually one of you told me, and I'm also constantly learning by the comments, for example. That's why I spend so much time of my daily time with reading your comments. That's really true, because I just love to keep like the interaction and actually also learn, because there's sometimes like some good ideas. And because someone of you said, this might look weird and wobbly, but then again, when you put something underneath, it's flexible, it's not hard, so something higher can still fit in there without this being pushed up too much, and it also holds the luggage underneath tight. So that is the pro thing about that. And then I can also reach over, since it's quite flexible, like this, and I can also fold the seats 1/3, 2/3, but you can see here, this only folds flat when I put the front seats in the front, like this, then they fold down, and then I can put them back again. You have to do it with some vehicles like this, put them back again, that's fine, just a little bit more work. Key fob looks like this, GR badge here on the side. This 30 here is just the number of the vehicle on this event. It's not there for the customer actually, but also looks racing style, right? Then door closing sound. Yeah, I really love it from the exterior, but that's obviously something that Toyota is not paying attention to at all. Maybe if they watch a little bit more Autogefühl, then they would also advise the engineers to upgrade the door closing sound, right? So best greetings to Japan. This one here, by the way, is built both in Japan and also in France. In France and for the European market, huge plant. I heard it's even the most produced car model in France at the moment, not from one of the French manufacturers. That's also, but considering they build like over 200,000 per year, that's really reasonable. Wow. Then inside of the doors, It's structured somewhat, but hard pack. Oh, yeah, it's really hard pack. And then here also, this is like a fabric covering, but it's not soft underneath. It's hard underneath, but at least a fabric covering. Then like this whole thing where you have the handle like hidden in a way. Kind of, yeah, weird design, honestly, a little bit, isn't it? Door pocket also not covered at all from the inside, but nice GR entry badge and also the GR Sport badge at the floor mats. So that's cool. And also then here in this trim, GR Sport steering wheel, some red contrast stitches, real buttons at the steering wheel to control everything. That's also cool. Right side, for example, also for the cruise control. And one of my favorite seats here, they are pretty cool. So here in the GR Sport you get microfiber and the red shines through from the background. That's pretty neat, right? GR Sport badge is also embossed right here. And let's take a seat, see how comfortable they are, because again, it's a small SUV, but then you think European roads, sometimes it's narrow and traffic is increasing and so on. But at the same time, as a tall person, you have good seating comfort here. That's lovely. I really like that. And yeah, when you look at the cockpit and so on, and this GR Sport trim, I understand why my father-in-law actually picked this one, also in the GR Sport trim, because you sit down and you immediately feel like, oh wow, it's like I get in a good mood. I like that. I want to drive it. It's just fun in a way. That's cool. I was so serious when I said, oh, it's just fun. Let me repeat it. It's just fun. That was more nicer, right? Sorry, I'm German. Then here, 189, 6'2", still have some headroom left. Yeah, I'm on the joke side today. Michelle is laughing all the time behind the camera. I also have to be serious a little bit. And yeah, I would say we take a look at the cockpit now, Michelle. Maybe walk around. All right, now I'll use the force to open the door for Michelle. And the cockpit perspective, really cleaned up overall, I would say. This is here so much soft touch also on the dashboard here in the structure. Also here, it's not entirely hard. Glove box is also dampened. Yeah, I like that. Well done, Toyota. Remember, this is also a sister model to the Lexus LBX, by the way. And what we see here, especially in the GR Sport trim, is maybe not worse at all. Upgrades here, especially for the infotainment and the instruments. Infotainment starts 9-inch, or optional this one here, 10.5-inch. You see here the wireless Apple CarPlay, and besides that, of course, Android Auto is available. And here I usually prefer the dark mode for the infotainment system that looks a little bit more elaborated. And here they have a manual volume jog as well. Digital instruments would start 7-inch, but just in the middle, and this is the full digital instruments, 12.3-inch, also news here with the upgrade. And you can optionally also get a head-up display. AC unit, here you control the fan speed, and yeah, my favorite, that I can still turn something and not everything via touch and so on. That's good actually. And also for the seat heating. Oh look, hey, listen to that. Clicking sounds here for the seat heating, 2 levels. In the front there's also inductive charging pad. It's not cooled, however, as far I don't see any cooling holes at least, so that also says here that it might overheat indeed, to USB-C chargers as well. Then here there's like the shifting here. B mode is rather, by the way, to use the engine brake indeed. Then you can also trigger an EV mode, but that is like you prefer to drive electric, maybe like in the city or something, but doesn't make too much sense. Usually leave it in auto mode and that's it actually. Cup holders are not adaptive. This is all hard pack, not the best maybe there. Interesting is that under the armrest there's like a split, and does it work smartphone wise? Yeah, that also would work actually. That's maybe not the best idea. It's time for comments. Thomas in the rear seat with the time code. Here, hard pack at the rear doors, also nothing covered here at all. And then that's the thing, that probably you already taken from my comments that I really like this vehicle, but the only thing it does not offer, but it's also a short vehicle, is rear legroom, not too much. But I mean, considering the length of this vehicle and that I can comfortably sit here as a tall adult in the front, you see here, when I put my knees forward, yeah. But when I just put my legs like a little bit outward here, it still somewhat works. And also headroom-wise with 189, 6'2", no problem at all. So maybe not for tall adult proof, but you see here, when the legs are like this, then it somewhat works. In the middle, you could also sit actually, and you can also pull this one thing only down, like as a ski hatch, and then you have halfway couples. I mean, it's an interesting idea, right? Isn't it? So maybe unusual, but okay. And yeah, I mean, when the front seat is pushed a little bit more forward like this would be more realistic. Maybe this also works. You can drive the vehicle more or less with 4 taller persons. It's okay, but in the middle part is like, yeah, just maybe for a shorter trip. Still, the usage of space overall is excellent, I really have to say. Yeah, then of course we gotta drive it, and later on tell you more about consumption and also the price. Interesting detail, when the ignition is on and I switch between the auto headlamps and the daytime running light, see the lower part there, this is only active when there are the auto headlamps and the car is actually on. So that looks also cool with this vertical signature, and even more interesting, here the turning indicator in the front then replaces with the vertical signature. And in the top matrix LED trim, you can see here also cascading turning indicator in the rear. Wow. And the second exterior and interior, if you don't want to go for the GR Sport, this is here a Premier Edition, so also a higher trim level. And Urban Khaki is this vehicle color here, something different, mint green something. And you see the non-GR Sport version, here has a different grille then in the top and also in the lower part. Interesting grey contrast here. I mean, this is also a nice choice, isn't it? And this one is also equipped with the contrasting black roof, but you can also get uni-color, for example, vehicles. Of course, more colors are available. And in the rear, the most significant change is once again the lower part, where you don't have this sporty diffuser side, but more a plain look. But this is also good because no fake exhaust at all. So yeah, I really second that. And then let's take a look at the interior right here, because steering wheel seats are a little bit different. So this being not the GR Sport, you can see the steering wheel is, let's say, a little bit more simple. And also the seats here then in fabric. By the way, all the seats are animal free. So the slick surface, as you see here, is a high grade leatherette with very good quality indeed. So this is then here the fabric leatherette mix, whereas the GR Sport would be microfiber leatherette mix. And yeah, let me take a seat here to test the comfort in comparison. And the ergonomics are the same actually. Just the steering wheel, by the way, and the shifting lever, that is still animal content, but they will change it eventually. Maybe in a couple of years, or with the all-new models, they already began that. And to be very specific here, which one of the seats here, the fabric seat or the microfiber seat, might be better in summer or winter? I feel in wintertime, probably the microfiber seat is a little bit more cozy, I would say. In summertime, it depends. On the one hand, a fabric surface can even be a little bit more breathable than the microfiber. Then again, the microfiber is perforated. But the more crucial point is that here with the fabric seat, this upper area here is in leatherette, whereas this upper area here with the microfiber seat would also be completely in microfiber. And that's why this upper area can be kind of sweaty in summertime. And so the microfiber seat also has an advantage in summertime. So overall, both are great, but I would rather tend with the microfiber seat, or then a very base fabric seat will also be available. That will also be just fine. Well, if you couldn't decide for a specific color, you just take them all. Like this. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge with the Toyota Yaris Cross. Here the updated version. Also we're driving the 130 horsepower version, the new upgraded hybrid one, more power now. And cool thing is, all silent. We drive in the EV mode because we have some battery buffer left at the moment. And so when I'm just easily cruising here, maybe like city, rural environment and so on, it's totally ease. You also hear that like the additional EV sound is generated on the exterior, you also hear on the interior. It's maybe, yeah, we actually hear that as well. And then when I'm driving a little bit quicker, then it's actually gone. And also when I'm a little bit more on the throttle, then the combustion engine hops on. I can also see it here in this digital RPM meter. And so it always constantly switches back and forth, and at the end of the driving part I can also then give you a consumption figure. But so far the Toyota hybrid systems, they are very reliable and they also run very efficient. That's the cool thing. So yes, you can go to different driving modes here. For example, there is this EV mode, for example, but at the moment it says like unavailable during warming up. you can stress the EV mode a little bit more by that. But still, when it's not available, then it still won't work. So not sure how much sense is there in this separate, now it automatically switches. I was off the throttle, rolling over this bump. Now I'm in the EV mode again. And what I want to show you initially when I'm driving, there it is, like above 25, 26 kilometers an hour, then there is this EV chimer here is gone. I'm not sure if you can pick it up on camera. There it is. A little bit quicker. There, it's gone. Because then at a certain speed, the rolling noise from the tires, it's louder anyways. And there's also another drive mode selector here. There I can switch to this power mode, eco mode, normal mode. There it is. And by that, you have a little bit more response from the throttle, for example. You can pick that when you want to accelerate and so on. And I think they also picked these new, nice, modern visualizations for that. It's very interesting, by the way, that here the GR Sport version does have somewhat of a different setup. That means the steering is a little bit more direct, and I think it's really crisp, I really like it. Look at that. So here in the slalom way, it's very nice to control, has a great size, and here there are no dead angles in the steering. Every command is precisely transported to the road. And this GR Sport version also has somewhat of a sportier setup from a suspension. So it's not only a design line. They really, because I specifically asked them for that, they really did some slight changes then also to how it drives actually. This is also equipped with 18-inch wheels here. That means that's a sportier setup, and that gives me a nice and direct feeling. You do feel you sit a little bit higher since it's a small SUV, in contrast to just a small normal hatch or something. So this difference is being felt. However, when I'm driving over some bumps here and so on, it's not that I would have it's like the urban khaki, the other launch color. So there it is. So at the same time, I don't feel like a huge difference that it would be like too sporty or too stiff or something. Let's do an acceleration right here. So from 0, and let's also put in the power mode. And let's see, 10.7 seconds. It says not sure. I won't reach 100 here, but let's just see how it goes. Let's go. That's 80. That's enough for now. It's actually quite good, and definitely more powerful than before. And they actually really worked that over the whole, RPM curve and so on. You always have more power available, also while overtaking and so on. That's actually quite nice. Here now a little bit bumpier. You do feel it, especially with the 18-inch, but I think it's still okay somewhat. If you want more comfort, you have two possibilities. A, stick with smaller wheels. B, don't pick the GR Sport. However, my estimation is that getting smaller wheel size will do more for your comfort than just not getting the GR Sport, you know what I mean? But I think overall the setup is really nice. It feels like a fun, small SUV. That's what they definitely achieved. And, I had this feeling initially when I just got the looks of this vehicle, and it really delivers what it promises. That's actually a very cool thing to have. Now it's some potholes here. You do feel it when the road gets a little bit rougher, that it's not like a, like large adaptive suspension vehicle or something. That's not happening. But still, the main purpose of that is to feel agile and also good in the city and so on. And that's working very well. Also nice sound. That's really tight here. Nice sound when I put in the turning indicator. That's fun. And well, you have the 3-cylinder petrol engine in here as base for that hybrid. And the fun thing is that the 3 cylinders, they always sound cooler somehow than the 4 cylinders, don't they? So that's definitely also something to consider. And by the way, you maybe sometimes hear this speed chime. For the EU market, it is mandatory, but there is a way actually to deactivate that, and it's a little bit they don't get any hotkeys or something for that. That's not their philosophy. You have to hold them. Here, select settings. Just press OK one time, then go to RSA and then turn it off, and then the speed chime is actually off. And here we can do acceleration one more time. Let's close that for you. Let's see, and let's go. A little bit of spin in the front. That's 100 kilometers an hour. So, yeah, I mean, decently enough, definitely. Yeah, a little bit of wheel spin right there, but that's totally fine. You see, it was still very well to control also, even when we were accelerating out of this corner. And now some motorway driving. We once again switch to the power mode. I will delay the getting onto the motorway here a little bit, that we can start directly here from a certain speed. And this will be 40 to 120 kilometers an hour. Let's go. That we can really score 40, like very, very slightly uphill. And let's go. That's 90. I have to stop here. So this is 40 to 90 kilometers an hour. Very nice, yeah, but due to that I can do some more 80 to 120. Let's go. That was 80 to 115. Also had to cancel that for safety reasons. But yeah, it is not the sportiest vehicle, of course. But considering now, definitely quicker than before, so I like the power upgrade. Good to have the 130 horsepower. I would definitely go for this version here. Below 100 kilometers an hour, below 60 miles an hour, it's also okay from the wind noise. But when you drive a little bit quicker, like here now at 110 kilometers an hour, something like that, like 65 miles an hour or something, then the wind noise is picking up, not necessarily from the mirrors, but here from the B pillar actually. So yes, they have some new insulation measures, and they help that it's better than before. Still, I have to say, here at 120 kilometers an hour, like 65, 70 miles an hour, not ideal. So I had so much fun driving. It's a little bit calmer, sportier, great city driving, great hybrid drivetrain. But then again, yeah, as for the noise insulation, it's not the ideal thing if you drive motorway high speed. That's the one catch it has. But yeah, you just have to know that actually. This is like the racetrack Mallorca. We have always, we've been driving there a couple of times. We have a couple of reviews with the racetrack here in Mallorca as well. Nice track. So here now lane change. That's awesome. You know, like that. Wow. Like the driving characteristic, how it handles is awesome. That's really awesome. Blind spot monitor is also, by the way, in the side mirrors, and here on the right side, I feel I'd rather drive 100 kilometers an hour with this car. So here on the right side, right thumb, I activate the cruise control, and let's see how smooth it also reacts. Oh, I set it to 120, now it accelerated to 120 again, so now again, there we go. So here, active lane keeping is also active now, more standard assistance systems now. This is also inside the upgrade, and here motorway is slightly bent to the right, and you see here very smooth. Oh, does it work with touch or with, let's see, no, it's no capacitive. So yeah, the steering needs some movement that still knows you're there. So it's still level 2, but I feel this is very good as for the, see, there's no hectic movements and so on. So very satisfied with that. And not sure if one of the cameras does pick up the blind spot monitor. It appears in the side mirror. And then when I hit the turning indicator, I get an additional flashing of that blind spot monitor. So I like that they put more standard from the assistance systems, and they also work in a very flawless way. Yeah, my most favorite feature is really like the seats here, also great for tall people, and every lane change is so much fun. So I'm surprised how great and agile this car is handling. The only catch is the wind noise at higher speeds. Even though they did these insulation measures, they could not achieve it that it's really very silent on the motorway. That's not happening yet. And I could do the lane change all day. And the other thing, the catch for tall persons, so here my right knee, it does work, but it's kind of narrow between the steering and the middle console. It directly fits in, but that's about it. So these are the only two catches. Other than that, here for a small SUV here, it's really so much fun in driving, and I really liked it as a small car choice overall. hybrid drivetrain, of course. One of the big things here is always, what about the consumption? But before we talk about consumption and final conclusion and so on, we will quickly drive here the non-GR Sport model, because Toyota said, as you maybe remember, that the steering and the suspension is a little bit different with the GR Sport model. And yeah, let's just try to find out if that is any different actually. So, of course, the base feeling is more or less the same. We also have 18-inch wheels mounted here, so we can very well compare. And let's see then how it turns out when I'm running over these speed bumps, for example, and when the road is a little bit uneven and so on. Steering wheel feels a little bit different because it doesn't have the perforation. And here, yeah, maybe slightly different indeed. It's a little bit like when, you know, these, let's see if it also changes in the driving mode. That doesn't seem to do anything, but you know, there are a lot of vehicles that when you change the driving mode from normal to sport, then the steering characteristic changes a little bit, and that's somehow how it feels. So indeed, the GR Sport steering feels a little bit more progressive, I would say. That's my impression. It's not that this one is bad at all. It also has, you know, no dead zone area and so on, but definitely, yeah, here I feel it more. I mean, there is some command, but I feel like when I do like this with the GR Sport, that it already would do more. So the progressiveness, let's call it that way, that is a little bit better with the GR Sport. So steering, I would say, I really like more with the GR Sport, both for sporty driving and also for comfortable driving. Suspension-wise, it's really tough to say. I really hopped from from car to car now to really get you the best experience, best difference. But Michelle, what would you say? Do you feel any difference in suspension as a passenger? It's really tough to tell, you know. So maybe here, like in this plop plop, and then this bump here. It's maybe a little bit softer, but it's not the world, you know. It's not that we say, hey, the GR Sport is rather uncomfortable, sporty in a way, and so, and this one isn't. No, I would rather say that they do come close. Maybe it's slight difference, little difference, but the bigger difference will definitely be, as I expected, when you pick smaller wheels. So GR Sport, you can definitely go for it. You don't lose comfort. Yeah, maybe there's a slight difference. And if you want more driving comfort, then it would definitely need to be just smaller wheels. That's the way you can also individualize that. Pricing, well, here in Europe, they are not that cheap. Like you get some entry levels in the US from Toyota. So here, 29,000 euros up to around 40,000 euros. For that size of a vehicle, it's of course quite expensive, but it's only when like all-wheel drive, highest trim, GR Sport, and so on and so on. You can also get some mid-trim level vehicles. So yeah, it's not cheap in a way, but other cars are not cheap at all. Car prices have risen in general. And what's also really good here with Toyota, they always score very good results in reliability rankings. So you can very well also not only lease one, but actually also buy one without worrying that it will break down or something. And consumption, something between 4 and 5 liters on 1 kilometer, so like 55 mpg US, 65 mpg UK. So of course not that much, quite efficient, but it's also a small vehicle. And recently, for example, with the Skoda Octavia, which is a way larger vehicle, is only MHEV, mild hybrid, we scored something similar actually. So yeah, but still you can be satisfied. It won't cost you much money as for the fuel, that's for sure. And also interesting that in the statistics of how often we drive all electric is most of the time that we drive more than half of the time we drive electric. That's also of course good, also as for the CO2 output and maybe like inside the city less fumes and so on and so on. And then, yeah, what would I tell my father-in-law? The upgrades are definitely very nice with the more power and, you know, some more refinement on the interior and so on. That's definitely cool. It's not exactly a reason to ditch the previous one, like the pre-facelift. There the gap is not too large, I would say, but definitely another reason to pick this one here as a small SUV. I think the overall performance is very decent. With this vehicle here, Lexus is going against the trend because Audi is dropping the Q2 and the A1. Mercedes is dropping the A-Class and the B-Class. The premium manufacturers say goodbye to the small segment, whereas Lexus says, hey, we're going to offer a Lexus here for around $30,000, pounds or euros, at least in the base version. Does that work? How Lexus is the all-new LBX? We're going to find out with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the front, which is typical Lexus design, I would say. Maybe a little bit more drawn back, not as dramatic as the sedans or something, but you still have this shape right here and then this rather open grille. This is here ruby red, the very striking red color, and a nice daytime running light design with this chrome accentuation. It looks a little bit crossover SUV-ish, however I can already tell you so far that the seating position and the driving is more hatch-alike, but we're going to find out more about that. Wheels in 17, or these ones here are the optional 18-inch wheels. And the length here is indeed only at 4 meters 19 or 165 inches, so it's a tiny Lexus indeed. You can also get a contrasting roof here in black at this point. Does it, by the way, remind you of a Toyota model? We'll talk later about that. A very clean rear design here with a light strip going all across. Top speed is 170 km an hour, 105 miles per hour. Is that enough for the German Autobahn? Yeah, in most cases yet. And also it's a tiny vehicle, maybe not thought for like high-speed Autobahn and so on. Interesting technology-wise is that with that suspension on the rear axle, if you have the front-wheel drive model, then you only get a torsion beam in the rear. However, if you go for the all-wheel drive model, a little bit increased weight, then they went for a double wishbone in the rear, supposed to give you more comfort. At the same time, the chief engineer of Lexus told me that he would actually go for the front-wheel drive version only due to, some less weight and therefore more driving agility. One more feature we can show you. Leah will assist us. Yeah, she's doing the wiper. Here, look at that. In the very front there's a small nozzle, and that means the nozzle is integrated in the wipers itself, actually. There we go, she activates the wipers, and there you can see it's really smooth. It doesn't get sprayed on the windshield, but it's really coming out of the wipers itself. So that's of course a better wiping function. Yes, we know it's not a new thing, but for this segment it is actually quite rare. Now I've put the car in the shadow for you, that means better see the turning indicators or the hazard lights. They look quite cool in the front, don't they? By the way, here our shooting location today is in Valencia, so best greetings to all our Spanish friends. You maybe know that we also have a Spanish language channel with a direct translation voiceover, if you're interested in that. Here in the background, this nice water and so on, this is the Ciudad de las Ciencias. I hope that was the correct thing. So it's like the city of arts and science in Valencia. A very impressive thing here with museums, these water basins, and we got an exclusive allowance actually. So Lexus has organized that we can put the car right here. Usually it's not allowed to go with the cars here. So we also have a very nice shooting location for you. What? This is the rear turning indicator. I think here when they say, hey, we want to present you a small premium vehicle, should have been a little bit more effort here, right? Okay, and I also had my Jar Jar Binks moment. So what I also want to show you here, design-wise, look at that, how the design line goes in there, very central. So this requires a lot of effort when doing the tools for the vehicle to be able to produce this. This is the Lexus key fob, like with any other large vehicle, only that this is a tiny one. And then here you can see these door handles. They don't give you a haptic feedback. It's just when you press them behind, they come a little bit towards you. So it's kind of like this very smooth process. And then door closing sound. That's very solid, like that. We open the doors and then they use, it's not entirely hard, but it's not super soft on the top part. Here, this is then a little bit softer. This is like a leatherette covering. However, I have to say on the side, they don't use the highest grade of leatherette. So I would prefer a little bit higher quality grade from the leatherette here. Then, this is also interesting. You just press it here to open the doors. It's like this electric mechanism also to make it smooth and easy. If it would fail at some point, then you pull it. This is then the manual opening. Then interior, different trims are available. This trim here is completely animal free. It's called Premium in the UK or Emotion in Germany. Or the Elegance trim will also be animal free, and then you can get, for example, also this new material on the steering wheel. And this is pretty cool because it looks better, it feels actually also better and softer. Also underneath the material you can touch it in, it's pretty cool. And Toyota and Lexus with this new material, they have actually said that it has less abrasion, so it is also more durable. And the seats, this is also leatherette here, also with perforation. It's available with or without perforation. Here then without the perforation on the top part, some contrast stitches on the inside. Yeah, that looks actually quite fancy and also is supposed to set it apart from its Toyota counterpart. And then seating position, what they did here is, it looks crossover-ish, but the seating position indeed is like, you know, small hatch seating position. So they want to give you more hatch driving feeling. Headroom with 189 or 6'2", still a lot of headroom left, no problem. You get along as a tall person. Just here to the middle console, it gets quite narrow, but then again, they also have this soft leatherette cover here that you don't damage your knee. The steering itself, up and down, in and out, with a smooth process to adjust. So how premium is it here? All hardpack. No covering on the inside. Yeah, that could be better. Then again, even the BMW 5 Series in the new generation has hardpack at the inside of the door pockets nowadays. Yeah, maybe not the best trends for premium interiors. But what else do we have here? Look at that middle console. In the front part we have inductive charging pad. Then there's also another place where you could theoretically put your smartphone, but maybe not ideal. Cup holders are adaptive here. Then you have this step system for the gear selection. Here a button for EV mode only, but usually you leave this hybrid system in the auto mode and the vehicle picks it itself. Here also everything with the same leatherette covering. You can slide this one backward and open this one. Yeah, maybe not the best solution, but it works. Here another cup holder, you can also pull it out and then you have more space for clutter underneath. Interior cockpit overview, what I really like is that we don't see too much high gloss and not so much hard packed plastic. This is soft touch. Then here, this is also soft touch with a contour stitch here as well. And also these inserts here. And also this is a matte atmosphere. So that's actually what I like. Screen 9.8 inch. So we can also only say 10 inch. Instruments start with the base version 7 inch smaller, but this is then full digital 12.3 inch. And in the instruments, you can also change around the view a little bit. The weird thing is just that you control it here, but what you do, you don't see really in the instruments, but in the head-up display. I do appreciate manual climate control here with a physical interface. Just the vent strength here, or the fan speed, and also where the air is coming from. This you have to do in the screen. This is the car internal GPS. It works, but could be a little bit quicker or more responsive. Most of the time then you will use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. You can either use it with a cable. This is the one possibility. Apple CarPlay also works wireless. Android Auto so far only wired. That's at least what I heard. So I can test it here then with the Apple one. And when I pick music here, this is the optional 13 speaker Mark & Levinson sound system, manual volume control, and it's a really nice sound. So I like that sound system here, and good integration of the CarPlay as well. I really have to say my favorite thing on the interior is the quality of the steering wheel. It also has a nice ASMR effect. And after all, this is here the #1 interface, driver and vehicle. Now I move to the passenger seat to show you two very interesting things. First of all, I found out here more about the build quality of this vehicle, if it's really premium. Here, look at that, the glove box is closed at the moment, but I can still push it in, you see here. And also this button here for the opening mechanism is not what you would actually expect from a premium vehicle. Here then, underneath where you put your feet actually for the passenger, look at that, this part here. You just touch it with your feet and it's just loose. It's not well attached here actually. Before anyone says now, wait a minute, you're just doing this with Japanese cars. No, as I just said, also with the BMW 5 Series we criticized the interior build quality and so on. I do not care if it's Japanese or German. Just because I come from Germany does not mean that I rate German cars any better. We look at it individually, and what you always have to say is that Toyota and Lexus are very good in the reliability rankings. That has been throughout the past years, and you always have to mention that. But when they promise a premium interior and say this is not a Toyota, we always have to test it. In this case, I have to say, is it really a premium interior? Not quite, I would say. But what about the space here? When we go a little bit more in the front, this is the maximum I could sit as a tall passenger. How much space is there still left in the rear? Rear seats, this is how I would be driving actually. So the space I have behind the seat then of the driver's seat. Then the space behind the passenger seat, a little bit more forward. The question is, do I still fit in there to make it at least 3 adult proof? Rear doors, all hard pack on the top. Here, this is then the soft touch and also this easy opening mechanism. And then behind the passenger seat, I can sit with 189 or 602. The headroom is really close. It does exactly fit here. But then when I would slide, yeah, I mean, theoretically you can also, you're at least allowed to also sit in the middle part. Here you can see behind the driver's seat, yeah, that doesn't really work. At least ISOFIX on the rear, and of course, rear seating is not the focus of this vehicle. You cannot fold down anything here. You have 2 USB-C chargers here, however, in the middle. What about the trunk here? Is it also tiny, like the whole vehicle? 400 liters for the front-wheel drive version. If you have the all-wheel drive, then 315, so you lose a little bit. Here, the normal width, let's see. Yeah, it's 1 meter or 40 inches, that's good. The length, of course, somewhat limited at 75 centimeters or 29 inches. You see here it goes quite deep in there for the trolley and so on. You can fold the seats 2/3, 1/3 split as well, but you have to reach over or go around. So overall, I think it's quite okay considering the size of the vehicle. So, and then the question is, of course, oh, child safety test, why not? That's pretty sensitive, good. Why do Audi and Mercedes drop out of these small vehicles? BMW still offers the Mini, for example. They have the segment for that. Well, it's a problem to make it profitable. So due to the safety regulations, cyber security, for example, as well, then of course also the crash safety, then all the emission laws and so on. And at the same time, electric vehicles are only profitable in a very small scale when the battery prices go down. So at this moment, it doesn't make sense for a manufacturer to build small vehicles. You cannot earn proper money with it unless you share the platform. And this one here, the Lexus LBX, is sharing the platform with the Toyota Yaris Cross. The question is it just a rebadged Yaris Cross? Or is there even something more? We've seen it on the interior. They are definitely more upmarket in the interior. Then they say they have more insulation and so on, so that it's actually more silent. We're going to find out with the drive. And also this more or less same engine from the base gets a little bit more power. Under the hood, we have a 1.5 liters 3-cylinder with 136 horsepower. Acceleration figure 9.2 seconds here for the front-wheel drive version. If you have the additional electric all-wheel drive, then 9.6 seconds because you have 75 kilograms more in weight. The overall weight is 1,280 kilograms, so it's a pretty light vehicle. But actually the chief engineer asked me what do Germans especially think about this vehicle as for the premium sense? And I told them, the interior is actually pretty cool, but as for the engines, a lot of the customers in Europe might think, it's maybe a little bit underpowered. So the acceleration is actually quite slow. So the question is if people in Europe, especially in Germany, will accept this one here as a premium engine. It is very efficient. We're also going to find out more about it in the driving part. But some might say, I just want more power in a premium car, although this one is, of course, a very small one. What's your take on that? Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Lexus LBX. First, a very interesting thing, which this one here has in common with the Lexus LM. that huge luxury van thing we have recently shown you as well, it has the so-called brake posture control. So when we're here in city traffic, the car tries to stay upright. A thing that usually is done like here now, traffic light. You see here I'm hitting the brakes, and you see it doesn't do a big nosedive when braking, which is actually totally normal if a car would do that. And more elaborate luxury vehicles try to even it out with active suspension technology, with hydraulics that, for example, front is then pumped up in driving, or when you accelerate, it works against it in that way, like the all-new Porsche Panamera. We are also going to show that to you, or maybe S-Class Coupe or a GLE. They have this suspension leaning technology, but here they do it in a simpler way because they also need to keep the prices low. So what they do here is, with so-called brake posture control, usually you have most of the braking power in the front, and here they have this adaptive braking system that they can distribute the braking powers front and rear like they want to. And so a little bit more braking power is sent to the rear in, like mediocre braking, and so the car doesn't lean so much to the front. If there's more braking needed, then that's welcome to Valencia, Spanish driving. But I mean, I like it. What I do like is that they are more daring in roundabouts, So when you're driving a roundabout in Germany, for example, it takes ages because everyone is waiting until there's acres of space, and then you get in. And here in Spain, everyone is going in the roundabout. It somehow works. That's the main difference. So back to this posture control here, you really feel that the car is a little bit more calmer in its body movement position, and I think it's a very interesting idea to achieve that with a simpler system than with active suspension technology. So again, the main effect is that a little bit more braking power sent to the rear, but they can always adjust that depending on the situation you have. Here in city traffic, of course, the hybrid system plays a major role. Then it plays out all its efficiency advantages. So, for example, you can always use this regenerative braking when there's the next traffic light and so on. And often when you lift your foot off the throttle, then we have electric driving. Here, for example, I see at the moment RPM is at 0, and then I'm just in the EV mode, getting all the power from that buffer battery. And there you can actually score some very good efficiency figures, some 5 liters and 1 kilometers, so some 50 mpg US, 60 mpg UK. And you might wonder, wait a minute, shouldn't that be even lower because Toyota RAV4 or Toyota Prius and so on, or also Lexus ES or whatever, in the bigger vehicles you can score similar consumption figures with that hybrid system. And yes, that's actually true. And obviously the lower weight we have here doesn't have the biggest effect on that. So usually is in the way that it is always efficient no matter which size of the vehicle you have, and if it's a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter, it doesn't make the biggest effect that it's even more efficient or something. Here in city traffic, it's actually good to have now this smaller vehicle, and this is also their main argument, because for European roads, especially if you have the more narrow cities, it just feels more relaxed when you have a smaller car and to find a parking lot and so on. And especially when Mercedes and Audi are dropping out of these smaller segments, then of course Lexus could have it a little bit easier to achieve new customers. Also really nice steering, I have a good feeling for that. There we go with the ASMR effect of the steering. So here the commands are transported very well, and you see there's no dead zone area, even fine commands are being transported to the road. I like that. Suspension-wise, this is a good testing because this is here a very uneven road, and we do have the bigger wheels mounted here, 18-inch, and there you do feel the bumps. So it is not a sports car, but I would say it's a rather sporty setting for the suspension. Here this is also the front-wheel drive version only, so that means we have the more simple constructed rear axle. Yes, the chief engineer told me that driving dynamics-wise, the front-wheel drive only is better. At the same time, I would maybe think about going for the more elaborated rear axle with the overdrive version. So if you want a little bit more comfort, then you would stick with the 17-inch wheels. However, then the advantage of this rather sporty setup is it drives very well in a fun and dynamic sense. And even if you compare it to the Toyota Yaris Cross, which is the technological brother to this one here, or sister, how you like it, here, this one here definitely drives more agile and it is actually more fun. So I found it very cool. Even in the city traffic here, you have a lot of fun steering it around. It fits with the tiny size and so on. And the steering is nice. Suspension gives you a sporty feeling, and the whole seating position, that's also something where the engineers paid a lot of attention to. They wanted to make it small hatch-alike and not necessarily SUV or crossover-like, and that's also what I feel here. So although it looks on the outside SUV or crossover-like, it really drives like a small hatch. And yeah, I mean, why not? And the seating position itself is also comfortable, and what I also realize is here the steering wheel, I can always find a good position even with like when you're a tall driver. In some of the Toyota counterparts, sometimes the steering wheel for me does not go down far enough that I can find a good position here, you know, with my arms and with my hands. But here it's actually pretty good. So a lot of fun when steering it around all the way here in the city. That's also one of the main purposes of the vehicle, and also the efficient consumption stays in that region all the time. And here, once again, on the brakes, there's also this visualization, by the way, when I hit the brakes in the instruments. And then I also know that that the brake lights are flashing in the rear. Not sure if that's really necessary, but maybe it's also an interesting information. And now some acceleration, 40 to 80. Let's go. Plop, that's it. A little bit help here with going downhill. You see, it starts with some electric boost, then the engine sets in, and with this new hybrid generation they have, the effect that you have this is still there somewhat. But yeah, she always loves when I mimic engines. So it's still there somewhat, but way less than in previous hybrid generations with this e-CVT. So overall, I think that's okay. And you have to remember that in comparison to the Toyota Yaris Cross, this one here is in the comparable engine spec 1.5, so 1.5 seconds quicker. And since it's not the quickest overall, I think it's good that we have at least that, you know. So doing one more time. So from 60 to 100, let's go. Plop, that's it. Yeah, I went through here on the right side now that you could see the acceleration full. Yeah, it is somewhat enough, even though it's not very powerful. But when I then think about, if it would take 1.5 seconds more in the Yaris Cross, then there's definitely also a reason to go for this one. So yeah, and probably also in that case for the front-wheel drive only version, because the rear-wheel drive version is then a little bit slower due to the added weight. Here on the motorway now, they have this special soundproof installation also with the windows, for example, so it is more silent than with the Yaris Cross, so you gain that. Doesn't have the biggest effect in the city, but more here on the motorway. Toyota and Lexus are not the most silent on very high speeds though, because they don't primarily think of the German market where it would hit the motorway or the Autobahn and even quicker or faster. But here at normal motorway speeds, 1 km an hour, 60 miles an hour, it's also okay as for the noise and so on. Then we can set the cruise control. Here also then plus minus on the steering wheel, and once again I see that feedback of that in the head-up display. And let's see, move over, maybe we can also see something of the blind spot monitor. Let's see when it appears. There we are. So it appears then in the side mirror. I have this flashing thing, and then it, blinks also and gives me an acoustic warning when I would hit the turning indicator. Let's see about this active lane keeping assist. So I can set it here with a separate button. See how smooth it is. Here now the motorway makes a bend. You see some minor corrections, So it's not super smooth, but already quite okay. So you see here, that was well done. You're always obliged to keep your hands on the steering wheel still. So also upgrade assistance systems here. Everything you actually need. About assistance systems and what about to turn it off. Yes, some of these done easy with the press of a button. However, if you think about this new EU regulation as for the speed warning, when you exceed the speed, you have to go here in the menu and then go to the road sign assist and then deactivate that one. There's no direct hotkey for that, but at least you can do it more or less in a simple way. Now we can also drive 120 kilometers an hour. Let's see also how the noise installation works there. Yeah, I mean, it is getting somewhat windy. It's also comparable to the other vehicles in the corporation. But yeah, as I said, not set out for the highest of speeds, but the overall characteristic of the vehicle, seating comfort, position, and how it behaves on the road is still overall good as for the comfort level. When you think about larger Lexus vehicles, yes, of course, when you are thinking about it like an ES, so it's a taxi Lexus behind us also now at the moment. They're more and more used for taxi purposes, by the way, because also of the reliability and the hybrid system and so on, and because Mercedes is withdrawing or has withdrawn from the taxi market, especially in Germany with the E-Class. So then taxi drivers are also seeing the advantages of that. But if you compare now the very, very small Lexus to the bigger ones, here in the front cockpit it's more or less the same. The only thing, I would have more space for my legs, for example here between the steering wheel and the middle console. It's getting kind of narrow for tall people, you know. That is definitely better when I would drive a Lexus NX or an ES and so on. But other than that, from the functionality and the seating comfort and the features and what we touch and see there, it is really Lexus-ish. So initially I said it starts right over 30,000. But then again, yeah, when you have some higher trims and some extra equipment, you can also get to 45,000 euros high trim plus all-wheel drive and so on. Then it's of course not cheap in that sense. But if you, for example, compare it to an electric vehicle at that size, then it's also more or less the same or a little bit less expensive. That's also what Toyota and Lexus think in their strategy at this moment, that electric vehicles are a little bit too expensive. They focus on this hybrid thing. They're coming with new EVs now, but they're definitely late to the game. But do you think it's the right approach? How Lexus is it? I would say exterior, definitely, yes. Interior in the front cockpit, I would say 60-70% or something like that. There are some details that are not on the same level as we would take a smaller vehicle from the Germans, for example. And sometimes you also have more luxury, of course, still if you would have a larger Lexus. But I think it can make sense, this concept, especially because the Germans have dropped out of these very small segments. If you compare a Toyota Yaris Cross here to this one now, yes, you have some more nice features and some more, more elaborated surfaces with this one here. But is the difference that large? Well, the acceleration, that one doesn't make a significant difference. And of course, the prestige and the exterior design and so on. But I would still think you could also go for a high trim level Yaris Cross. The Toyota CHR has split opinions in love or hate design wise, but with this new generation, Toyota really wants to attack the compact SUV segment. Will it work? We'll find out together with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the special version, the GR Sport, that has sportier accentuations in the lower part with this honeycomb style right here, a stronger, sportier, lower intake area as well. And the overall design, you can see it is kind of special and unique, but at the same time I feel it will be less splitting opinion than the predecessor. Or what do you think? The length at 4.36 m or 172 inches, so that's not a big change if you compare the predecessor. Interesting here how they play with the design lines right there. Wheels from 17 to optional 20 inch. So if you go here for the GR Sport 19 inch and then optional you can get these biggest ones 20 inch. And now something interesting happens. When you go for the plug-in hybrid version or here for the hybrid version with the 20-inch wheels. Then you get the new frequency adaptive dampers. So they actually rule in an adaptive way, but in a passive adaptive way. You cannot control them from the inside or so on, but they react accordingly to the impact they get. So let's see in riding if this makes a huge difference. But also the base suspension has been reworked to be a little bit sportier, but more comfortable at the same time, they say. Look at how they integrated these horizontally drawn tail lamps into some kind of rear wing for the whole rear, right? Then when you have the welcome or goodbye signature, the Toyota CHR logo in the central rear part is also illuminated. And with the GR Sport trim, you get the badge here and also this honeycomb indentations in the lower part for an even sportier look. How do you like the new rear styling? Tell me in the comments. By the way, on the technology side, so the inbuilt hybrid battery is placed below the rear bench. We can also see it here in our cutaway model. And if you want to go for an all-wheel drive, there is an all-wheel drive option here for the inbuilt hybrid, and then you have an additional electric motor between the rear wheels, so at the rear axle, and that is only active when there is wheel spin in the front, so when there's traction loss. So predominantly it will still be front wheel driven, just then in these all-wheel drive situations, maybe like on snow and so on, if you really need it. Turning indicators in the front, ooh, that's really fancy, right? Love that. Such a cool design, but I think the rear turning indicators, they are a little bit disappointing, aren't they? Paint-wise, you also have two contrasting options. You can get the roof here in black, or you can also, for this contrast plus option, you can get the whole rear in a black contrast. Again, you don't have to go for it. You could also take the whole vehicle in the same paint. By the way, here we have a silver vehicle for you, but we also have a golden one or a red one. Which one do you like best? Here, these door handles, they come up like this, otherwise they are flush, and then door closing sound is pretty weird. So they didn't pay attention to that. Then inside of the doors, so the top part is soft touch. Then in the GR Sport trim, we also have microfiber here with the red racy-like contrast stitches, hard pink in the lower part, and one more time these honeycomb structures here, together with the GR entry badge. Also the GR Sport gets this special steering wheel with red contrast stitches. Steering wheel material base, or this one is always, by the way, in a animal-free material, and Toyota has tested this, and they say it is actually more durable, has less abrasion than the animal skin material. Seats are animal free in the base fabric, and also here in this GR Sport trim, microfiber on the inside, and you have this integrated head restraint. Look pretty cool. By the way, you can slide this one like this, so that is then better for tall adults. And although it's a quite small vehicle, you sit really well here in these sport seats. They hold you tight, good comfort, and it works with tall adults, 189 or 6'2", no problem. Interior cockpit overview, of course, fully new. Instruments in 12.3 inch, always fully digital, like this styling here with the RPM meter. Screen on the right side, either 8 inch, a smaller one, or the optional 12.3 inch widescreen here. For the volume, you have still here these manual buttons and also on-off. And you also still have a manual climate unit, like that straightforward user interface. And you also have real buttons at the steering wheel, for example here for the cruise control. And important info here on the steering wheel, when you click OK, then you get to this assistance systems view, and then you can actually deactivate RSA. This is this new EU speed regulation thing that it always beeps, so it's important to deactivate it if you don't want to be annoyed, but it's not a quick hotkey. And you can also get a head-up display. This is a proper one that is projected into the windscreen. Toyota now offers actually a decently quick infotainment system, and they overall kept it pretty simple here from the menu structure and so on. Most of the time you will use Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and they promise now both is wireless. Because of the rear design, the view to the rear window is kind of limited. That's why they equipped it here with the digital camera mirror. And then you have a oh, that's a nice view here to the ocean at Ibiza. In the lower area you also have a heated steering wheel, separate button. Then you have here the inductive charging pad. Cup holders are not adaptive though. And to put in the gears you have this stairs system, so to speak. Armrest, that is the thing that is not that good from the build quality. The rest is actually pretty cool. And then here more space underneath and more USB-C charging. The rear door doesn't open too wide, all the way hard pack. This is where the price is also explained, so to speak. As said, it's short, but however, the usage of space not too bad. That's also better here. Although it's just like a voluminous sport seat, it fits directly for 4 tall adults, I would say. Gets closer with the knees, headroom also close, but actually works. As for the trunk, hey, we also have an electric hatch. 420 liters here with all-wheel drive, 10 liters more without all-wheel drive, and 70 liters less with a plug-in hybrid. But here you can see luggage fits in very well. The width is 1 meter or 40 inches in this back area, a little bit slimmer here, and the length is about 30 inches or 80 centimeters. 1/3, 2/3 split here for the rear bench. Then you have this step here. Toyota follows a hybrid engine concept here. You get a 1.8 liter hybrid with around 140 horsepower, 10 seconds in the acceleration figure. This one here, the 2 liter hybrid with around 200 horsepower, then about 8 seconds in the acceleration figure. That one also available with the optional all-wheel drive in the rear. And the plug-in hybrid version, 2 liter plug-in hybrid, that's possible. Also only front-wheel drive, around 220 horsepower, quickest with 7 seconds in the acceleration figure. And that one gets a 14 kilowatt hour gross battery. They don't talk about the net sizes or the buffer, which I highly criticize. They should give these figures to us and to the public, but I even talked to the chief engineer and they wouldn't reveal it actually. By the way, if you hear that engine going on sometimes here like now, why would you say like, or this, now it's really on, you might ask yourself, Thomas, why are you doing it? Why don't you shut down the engine when you're filming the car? Well, there is a problem with the Toyota and Lexus small starter batteries. These electric consumers in the vehicle, they drain so much power nowadays from these small 12-volt starter batteries that you have to be aware of when you have it stationary, leave the headlamps on, do something in infotainment, have the AC running and so on, like we have here the special use case we are doing. But even as a customer, when you have some of these consumers active, you have to leave it in the hybrid mode on, so as you could start driving, and just put it to P. If you just would have it in the first ignition mode on, where the car cannot drive, but there's electric consumers running, it will drain the battery. You have to be aware of that. There is a problem with Toyota and Lexus, especially. It happens to me at the moment with Toyota and Lexus and with the Porsche 911. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they have to change something with the electric consumers or something, but as long as you're aware of it, and leave it then in this full hybrid mode, then you're actually fine. Thomas' driving lounge. Let's put it to the sport mode here and acceleration 0 to 60. Let's go. Plop, that's it. Pretty nice actually. So what has Toyota done here? They have actually upgraded their hybrid drive, so it's a new generation, and together with engine tweaks and so on, you actually don't have that big effect anymore, that you have this like this. Yes, you still hear it, but not as much as with the previous generation. You have more power. At the same time, the engine acts in a calmer way. Of course, again, when you hit it all the way through with the throttle, you still hear that. But for most situations, the engine will definitely act calmer. This one here, driving the 2 liter hybrid, it will be like a split, you know, so some will go for the 1.8, lower entry price, some will go for the 2 liter hybrid, just depends on how much power you really need. Acceleration difference then, as I said, is that you have with one around 10 seconds in the acceleration figure and with the other one around 8 seconds, so 2 seconds in the difference then. Just a plug-in hybrid then with around 7 seconds is a little bit quicker even, but plug-in hybrid probably for most use cases won't make that much sense. Here in the sport mode, of course, the acceleration pedal is a little more enhanced and so on, but usually you would leave it in the normal mode like that. And it's actually pretty silent in here, I have to say, especially if you compare it to the previous generation or other past Toyota models. So they've worked on the noise insulation on this model here especially. They want to make it like a more premium approach, especially for the European market. That was the goal behind everything. Wider track, also more rigid chassis, so they've optimized everything they could. Steering is actually pretty good, so you don't have any dead zone area. Very good reaction here also, so at the same time it's comfortable to steer, so you don't have to steer too much. When you are here in this normal mode, let's just hear the difference once again. Here just calmly cruising, then it's not too loud, you know, so it's actually okay. remember this always works as a planetary gearbox, so it's called eCVT, but it's not working in the classic CVT sense. However, you don't have classic gear shifts. That's the reason also why it always sounds like that. But I really have to say, in this generation, definitely sounds better than before. Then assistance systems, look at that here. Active lane keeping assist. Let's test that. I've set the cruise control. It's also adaptive cruise control. There was a good reaction there in that corner. So let's see how hectic or how calm the steering remains. So far, actually, so good. This is another thing they also worked on. This has more elaborated assistance systems, and they also added more assistance systems as standard here. Let's see here, just paying attention. There we go. Yeah, it's actually quite well done so far. Because in older Toyotas maybe that wasn't the best system, but here it's actually pretty cool. Look at that. Yeah, and at the same time you can always take over yourself and also really quickly deactivate here, for example, the active lane keeping assist with one button click on the steering wheel. That's how I like it. Yeah, I like that straightforward approach. And sometimes maybe you have a road that say, hey, I want to take the steering myself and I want just some nice sportier driving, and then you can easily deactivate that. That's pretty cool. The seats here are doing a good job. They're good in comfort, also long term. They're holding me tight. They're taking weight off the lower lumbar area. So I'm really happy with these seats here. They work both in the sporty and also in the comfortable sense, and they make this, yeah, indeed some kind of premium experience. Not everything is premium with this vehicle, but they've really added a lot of nice premium features. And yeah, I just have to say, I really like how the steering performs and so on. So far, the road is kind of even suspension-wise, although we have 20-inch wheels mounted. It's very good comfort. We'll soon also test it when the road is a little bit more destroyed and so on, and see how the result is there. As for the hybrid drive system, when you accelerate, especially accelerate harder, then always the combustion engine is on. However, if I lift my foot off the throttle, directly goes to the EV mode, RPM drop to 0, and even then I can slightly accelerate and it stays in the EV mode. This will predominantly be used in the city, for example, but even here, when the road is going a little bit downhill, goes to the EV mode. When I'm a little bit more on the throttle, goes back again. And because the engine is now more silent, you hardly hear or feel these transitions. So it's really seamless, very smooth transitions between the EV mode and the combustion engine mode. That's definitely well done, and it also helps with the fuel economy. So here at the moment 4.7, so less than 5 liters on 100 kilometers. That's close to 50 mpg US and something close, a little bit less than 60 mpg UK. That's of course really good, also just monetary wise, and of course also for the environment, less CO2 output in the city, and yeah, just better for the pocket. This inbuilt Toyota hybrid system really works. The question there, considering these good results, is if the plug-in hybrid really makes sense, only probably when there are special tax benefits in your country. In Germany, for example, something like that is also still in place, then the plug-in hybrid drivetrain might make sense. And if you can really recharge it externally. For most use cases here, this inbuilt hybrid system will do just fine. And let's put it one more time here to the sport mode for some agile driving and some nice corners. As I said, the steering is really likable, very precise, very direct. 20-inch wheels here together with the frequency adaptive dampers. Again, they don't get stiffer in the sport mode or something, but they react on the different impact they get actually. And so far, when the road is even, is good. Just when there are some bumps in the road, then you feel the 20-inch wheels. So if you want more comfort on destroyed roads, you definitely should stick with smaller wheels. Here, when you have the all-wheel drive or plug-in hybrid, you also have the bigger brakes, by the way, just because of the added weight. But the brake feel itself is also really nice. Remember, they also have to do this brake blending because they also have the regenerative braking when you're in this, in this first moment of braking. But it's actually fine. Also, a very smooth transition of that. The car is fun to drive, definitely, especially because of steering and suspension setup. Really cool here also in the corners. The only thing we felt, Leah has complained a little bit that she tends to get sick in this vehicle. It's really very different in which vehicles the passengers get sick when you have a lot of, curvy roads and so on. And I'm not sure yet what is the real reason for that it sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. It's just that we can state this experience here. But for me as a driver, it's actually a lot of fun here in these corners, and the engine remains pretty calm. At the same time, especially with the 2-liter engine here, you have some good accelerating out of the corners. The overdrive, as I said earlier, is not there to support a sporty driving. It's just active when you have wheel spin, so when you're driving on snow and so on. But here, even when I do some performance driving, the overdrive doesn't really play a role. So you only should get the overdrive if you really need it in countries where you have these harsh winter conditions. You often have snow and very slippery roads and so on. Then it actually makes sense. In front of us, there's now a golden vehicle. And it seems that I'm catching them pretty early. Here, in these corners there, the car pushes a little bit to the outside and the steering could be a little bit more progressive, So when the corner is getting more narrow, then I would like to have some more progressive support from the steering. So overall, especially when you compare it to the predecessor, yes, it works. It is more comfortable and sporty at the same time. Comfort, especially if you don't go for the biggest wheels, because you always have to think about you're not always driving roads that are well built like these ones here. You also have some destroyed roads, and then you're definitely better off with these smaller wheels. But overall, it's very good fun and very refined driving experience, as I would describe it. Is Ascot grey rather grey or white? Well, compared to my trousers. If you want to see more about the VW T-Roc facelift, tune in now. Let's go. This is Thomas with Autogefühl. Please subscribe if you haven't done so far. And the VW T-Roc, one of the most popular VW models, will it stay that way with this facelift? Well, here is sportier front, this honeycomb style front grille. This is also the sportier R-line, and that also gets the daytime running light, the secondary daytime running light, so to speak, here in the lower part in a vertical way, whereas the style model, for example, would it feature here in this circle around. Then LED is now standard, optional the so-called IQ light, that's the matrix LED. And turning indicators in the front look like this. The length at 4.25 meters or 167 inches, so has grown just a little bit because of the different spoilers in the front and the rear. Wheels from 16 to 19 inch, these here are 17-inch wheels, so this is kind of more a comfortable pick actually. You can of course go more for a visual pick as well. Here the R-line comes with that badge right here, and we also have this black package here with the black side mirrors and also a contrasting black roof. Overall a quite likable and sporty styling, crossover style, Golf platform, not too high, not too low. Option you can get the DCC, the adaptive suspension. We also have it equipped here today. Yes, the famous locks in the background are back. Long-term subscribers will know what I'm talking about. Here you can see the T-Roc facelift gets new tail lamps here, new signature. And if you have the optional matrix LED, then you also have a cascading turning indicator in the rear. Other than that, clean styling in the rear, this typical hatch style. However, Autogefühl fake exhaust police is right here for you, because these have been identified clearly as fake exhaust and need to be punished. The T-Roc still gets the classic Volkswagen key, and I think it's better than the new high glossy black one. Door closing sound. We have heard that better. Main criticism for the interior here, hard pack at the inside of the doors. Actually quite some interior changes. Let's begin with the steering wheel. At the moment these #capacitive BS buttons are not backlit. They soon will be. I'll show you how the difference is. The cool thing is the R-line has the perforation at the sides. That's actually quite decent. But when you pick with the style trim level, you can still get normal buttons at the steering wheel. Seats here, over the more elaborated one, here with Alcantara or microfiber in the middle part. And you can also get the top sport seats for the R-Line. Then you would have integrated head restraint like in the T-Roc R. So the R-Line moves more towards the R, at least if you pick some options then. It's not the biggest SUV, however, with this crossover style, you already have more comfort than in a normal compact hatch. And the seats are really very good, have some side support, also plush surface here. You can put that lower area a little bit longer. So really happy with the seats, and also the overall seating position here, steering wheel in and out, with a actually quite huge span here. Now the ignition is turned on and these buttons here are backlit at the steering wheel. That looks really fancy, but to control it is harder than before. General overview. Here for the interior, you can see once again that perspective of the steering wheel, styling wise pretty cool, and also how you control it, actually quite cool. Then here also new screen updates, a lot of high gloss black piano lacquer when it's cleaned. It looks cool, but scratches, fingerprints and so on and so on. And here the optional Climatronic with the capacitive BS control. It looks again cool, and for a capacitive control it is quite okay, but you can also stick with the base one. If you do not pick this option, then you have still some knobs to turn actually. In the lower part, 2 USB-C chargers and also inductive charging pad for your phone. And this DSG shifting lever has also like its backlit gear view, so that looks quite fancy as well. And here also when you have the overdrive, you have a gear mode selector for off-road modes. A standard T-Roc would start 6.5 inch, then with dial or R line you get 8-inch screen, and optional this one 9.2 inch. The 8-inch has still a knob right here and here. This one completely buttonless, so that's a disadvantage. I think the only advantage that this one has is that you can show the map here and in the digital instrument at the same time then, because more processing power. The map itself is not that responsive. It's not the worst one. It's not a really good one. You can use it. The software updates have also made it a little bit faster, but still not really responsive. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto is available with wireless connection. And the cool thing is here, Beats sound system is inbuilt in this vehicle and also has a subwoofer in the back. And it actually gives you quite decent sound. If you figure out the volume either here or at the capacitive buttons at the steering wheel. Oh, when I need to show you here the rear view camera, the resolution for today's vehicle, I think that should be better. Digital instruments are clear to read, quite nice. Here in 10.25 inch, otherwise it would start at the base 8-inch ones, so these are then a little bit smaller ones. And you can have different views, for example also this map view, you can also have it full screen. It does not flicker on the real eyes, just on camera here by the way, but it's really hard to adjust that so it's a decent image but still doesn't figure. It's sometimes not really possible. And here my favorite view would be rather this one, with the classic gauges. So yeah, whatever you like, but I prefer rather this. When cup holders are not adaptive, well, it fits more for my basement garage beeper, but when you don't have adjustable things here, or like it's something that holds it tight, sometimes the bottles fly all over the place. Then armrest cover, it's actually quite firm, but looks quite cool with a leatherette surface. And some more space, for example, also for my leatherette purse here underneath. Well, the T-Roc is not that long, and headroom-wise, it does fit with tall adults in the rear. One is 86 or 6'1". However, here knee-room-wise, when I'm driving, doesn't really work. The seats themselves are actually very comfortable. You have a good upright seating position here in the rear. It's just that when you have tall, then it gets kinda close indeed. Yeah, and towards the middle part here with the huge middle tunnel, even closer now to USB-C chargers you have there. The trunk 445 liters maximum. However, if you have all-wheel drive and also the subwoofer from a Beats sound system, it's a little bit less. Here, however, still usable, 78 centimeters in length or 30 inches, and in width it's a meter or 40 inches. However, here the cabin trolley does not fit in the vertical way, then it wouldn't close, and you can see that underneath then here in this case there's just the subwoofer. But yeah, for the sound system it's of course pretty cool. And you have a 2/3, 1/3 split, but also a ski hatch, and then you have a little bit less than 1 meter 50 or 57 inches in length. Engines, next to the 2-liter TDI, on the petrol side you have a 1-liter 3-cylinder, a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder, or today here the 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine, a turbo, and also then with all-wheel drive, 190 horsepower, front plus rear, however then on demand this all-wheel drive system. And then you can also get the 300 horsepower strong T-Roc R. You can also check a video out of this when we have it on our channel. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the VW T-Roc facelift. Let's put it to sports mode because the German Autobahn test is to commence. here with the 2-liter TSI, 190 horsepower and all-wheel drive, front plus rear on demand. I also put that bigger speed in here, so we start from about 40 kilometers an hour and let's go. And now it's struggling. Yeah, but we're already close to 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. Oh, now it's getting like, wind noises here from the A-pillar. Yeah, window's really close, 200 kilometers an hour now. But really stable on the road, although it's, this crossover style. And only here now at 200 kilometers an hour wind noise have been picking up. Let's see when we drop. When is it stopping from the A-pillar? Let's see. Now at about 150, but feels really stable on the road. It's actually quite decent. Not the biggest wheels on there, 17-inch here today. And on the brakes, yeah, good and precise feeling indeed. So, of course, it doesn't feel as sporty as a Golf, which is a little bit lower. But here, I think a good compromise, between some more crossover SUV thing, higher seating position. It's actually quite decent and comfortable here in these Alcantara seats in the R-Line. Really like that. You can also get these top sport seats here, as I mentioned earlier. They are also really comfortable. So, seating-wise, really good job. And the steering input is actually also pretty precise. Soon also I go a little bit sportier and winding country roads and so on. But here so far, actually quite decent on the motorway. We can also hit the cruise control here with capacitive BS buttons on the steering wheel. You get used to it a little bit, but it's not really very good. Here when you press resume, you have 1 kilometer steps up or down or set, and with plus and minus 10 kilometer steps up and down. Sometimes you miss it a little bit. Here now in the dark in the tunnel you can see the climate unit in the lower part is also illuminated, so for a capacitive solution there it's actually quite decent, but I also told you earlier that you can also stick with base climate units when you do not pick this optional Climatronic actually. Overall it gives you a very balanced feeling, this vehicle, and it is very easy to control. It is one of the vehicles you just start in the morning, get inside, don't care about much else and just start driving. And it is this compromise that it's still small enough. See the blind spot monitor here as well in the side mirror. It's still small enough actually for the city, but it's already big enough that you can also take a longer Autobahn turn with this one here. So, and that's also making it so popular. As I said, it is one of the most popular VW vehicles now, meanwhile, overall. Now I'm getting off the motorway here, also a little bit faster in the corner. Let's see, getting precise from the steering. The suspension is not that soft nor hard. It's actually also a good compromise. And if you have that DCC, which we have here in the sport mode, it's a little bit stiffer then. But the adaptive suspension also then adapts in this area, and that's a good thing, because you can imagine it like this. So you start from the softest mode and then to the sportiest mode, but it's not like this, either soft or sporty. It's always the span, where it moves depending on the road condition, and then you just move the whole span of it and not the individual setting. I hope you got what I meant by that. And that's actually the advantage then here of the adaptive suspension, so I can indeed recommend to pick this one. I'm pretty dark in the face now, right? Here we go. Yeah, with the sun, a little bit tricky today, right? So now, traffic light to green. The engine is actually also quite responsive. As for the all-wheel drive, yeah, it is still a front-wheel bias. With the all-wheel drive here, of course, you have a little bit less of front-wheel bias than in this vehicle. So it is definitely more fun to drive it with the all-wheel drive. We've also a T-Roc R episode, of course, there it's even more stressed. However, it's not the most efficient engine. That would be rather the 1.5 petrol engine. Here the 2-liter TSI has more power, good punch here also on the motorway. However, then, as for fuel economy, also here with the all-wheel drive, something between 7 and 8 liters on 100 kilometers. That is more like 30 mpg US and 35 plus mpg UK. There's of course something better available as for the fuel economy. Alright, what about some agile driving? In the sports mode, by the way, also the S shifting mode is activated. That means the gears are turned up higher, later shifting up, earlier shifting down. You're coming quite well out of the corners. Of course, you feel that front wheel bias, yes, but the rear wheels are also helping then the more you apply the throttle. Also take a look at the steering wheel. I don't have to turn it that much. Quite progressive actually, and once again, very nice accelerating out. It's also not that you have massive understeer or something. Yeah, it's really very well balanced, this vehicle. This is of course this original Golf platform, and yeah, it's a very good one, you know. So the balanced handling of this vehicle is probably the coolest thing in driving. It hasn't changed with this facelift at all, and this is also one of the things why it's still so popular. At any time, by the way, you can go back here to the D shifting mode, either here with the big shifting lever. When you're here in the manual shifting mode and shift yourself, you press and hold, then you're coming back to either the S mode or the D mode, depending on which you have put in at this moment. So once again, very good result here. As for the driving, here also when you do some slalom, stays really upright, and always depends, of course. Usually you would drive in the normal or the comfort mode, just to have a little bit more comfort from this adaptive suspension, and the sport mode then only when you do things like these, for example. This here is a full review of the Volkswagen Taos, this new SUV in the compact segment, and it is Volkswagen's recipe for the US to replace the Golf, because the Golf is only available as GTI and Golf R anymore in the US, and this compact SUV is supposed to fill the gap below the Tiguan. Let's take a closer look here with Thomas and Autogefühl. Let's go! What do you think about this front design here? I like it pretty much because it has a bold styling. It's really modern at the same time, also with the daytime running light integration. It's also available here with the IQ light by Volkswagen. That's their Matrix LED naming. And here in the lower part you can see the contrasting black and red. King's Red is the color for today, by the way. And this is a lot of plastic here, especially in the lower part, that might appear cheap at first. At the other side is the way that when you have some small damages, it can also be replaced easier and of course in a cheaper way. 4.46 meters or 176 inches is the length of the Taos, which is sold under the name Tharu in China, by the way. Also interesting. And size-wise, actually, it is kind of equal like the Tiguan in the EU and 9 inches shorter than the Tiguan in the US, which is sold under Tiguan Allspace in Europe. Also interesting, isn't it? And I think it has a very modern look here, also with the crossover wheel arches and the Taos badge right here. Wheels start from 17 inch, 18 and then up to 19 inch here with a massive styling. We'll see also in the driving part if it still fits with the driving comfort then later on. And here you can see roof rails, and the lower part is in this chrome styling. So overall, I think, once again, a modern look, and even a little bit more modern than the Tiguan. We await, of course, a Tiguan facelift very soon. Stay subscribed here on Autogefühl if you want to see that soon. The Seat Ateca or the Skoda Karoq are also sister models in Europe, by the way. And here in the rear, if you have the IQ Light option, you also have a more sophisticated design for the rear lamps. This one equipped with 4Motion, that's their brand name for the all-wheel drive. And wait a minute. AFAP, alert, Autogefühl fake exhaust. Yeah, that's a true alert for that one. The Autogefühl fake exhaust police has to be active because these are, you know, the purest form of fake exhaust. The real one is underneath. Yeah, but the styling here, once again, with contrast, that is actually quite decent, isn't it? Khaki has a matte appearance. I really like that. This, of course, not stock. It's like for the test vehicle here. It's really cool because when you have high gloss black, you easier collect scratches and so on. And here, this is like a budget system for a keyless entry, not like with in and out. But you press this button here. But yeah, I'm fine with that. That way you close the vehicle and open it also again. Why not? Then door closing sound. Not too good though, I have to say. Used to better door closing sounds from Volkswagen. Then the top part is already soft touch, has also nice structure. And here you can get a leatherette surface, and here once again too. So it's actually decently built. And here also how the resonance of the quality, like click, click, This is actually good and easy to control here, the side mirrors. This is a straightforward user interface still. Taos entry badge, and these are the seats which have, let's see here, some accentuations, nice contrast stitching. So it's very good that you're being held tight. As for the material setup, this is animal skin in the SEL trim. However, you can also get cloth seats with some leatherette, they call it Cloud Tex, some leatherette applications. For example, also in the SE trim. So the lower trims then offer the more comfortable seats, because here the animal skin surface is a little bit stiffer, therefore also a little bit less comfortable. But the seat ergonomics is excellent because, I mean, it's not a large SUV, but you have a very good seating position even for tall people like me. It leaves a lot of headroom, and again, it's very good ergonomics in seating, and here steering wheel in and out, up and down. You can very well find a good seating position. You don't need more SUV indeed. Interior overview, very clean and straightforward. Not the only generation of Volkswagen interiors, but I prefer this one here. This is the interior generation where the VW interiors were still really good. Why? I'm going to tell you right now. First of all, it's like this is leatherette application here, also with the contrast stitching. That is, more premium atmosphere. And here also not high gloss black, but more this gray. That's also a nicer touch. The infotainment, it starts with 6.5 or optional or in higher trims, it's 8-inch like here, but you still have a manual volume knob and a manual tune knob. For example, you can also, when you use the car internal GPS, then you can zoom in and out with that. But here, let's take a close look. This is like the different clock views. Actually quite interesting. So when you have the car internal GPS, let's see. There we go. Then you can use this one here as zooming in and out. That's of course a handy thing. It doesn't work with the Apple CarPlay though. And the menu is straightforward. It's easy and it's actually decently fast. And I don't want more from the infotainment system. It's just supposed to work. And most of the time, most of us, we just connect to Android Auto, Apple CarPlay anyway. And then we have this one here actually. And this is totally fine for me, and it is working. It does not have the software problems like all new Volkswagen generations, so I would prefer this indeed. And indeed, this is the Volkswagen interior generation we all loved. Real buttons for the steering wheel heating, for example, and also for the sound here, the volume on the left, for the cruise control. And VW is now realizing that this was better than the all-new solutions, and they will bring back the buttons. They have confirmed that. So our hashtag capacitive BS, this hashtag has helped for that. Well done, everyone here. Then the digital instruments. This is also very interesting. Well, you can also get the map from the central screen here in the middle part, or then go all the way like this. But this only works for the car internal map. And it's now there, but then it's not in the central part anymore. And as soon as I, switch it back again, then it's disappearing here. So, yeah, and most of the time you'll use the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and that's it. Here, by the way, the MPG figure, that's one catch of this vehicle. It could be better. So for a small SUV, it's not that efficient. As for the view, I rather prefer this classic view where you have the round dials style. And then, for example, you have like a consumption overview in the middle. Manual climate dials here for temperature and also for vent strength. And I can control them blindfolded basically while driving. That's what I want, what I need indeed. That's just awesome. Why temperature sliders when you can have this one? And also here, seat heating and also seat cooling, and also so easy to control. Then in the front, 2 USB-C chargers, but also inductive charging. Apple CarPlay Android Auto is wireless and wired, possible both you can. Then it's actually a quite attractive shifting lever. This is the drive mode then, or pull it backward for sports driving mode, for turning up the RPMs. It has a really good feeling to it. And then here, this is the drive mode selector, like for off-road mode. Has to do with the overdrive distribution and so on, or click it on the inside for the street driving modes, for example, for the sport mode. Then we have adaptive cup holders, like here, and it's also very well built as for the build quality, and they really hold bottles and so on really tight then. And here, the armrest, nice leatherette cover, and it's also very well attached. It doesn't wobble left and right. That's, for example, better than with Toyota. It doesn't wobble left and right that much. And on the inside, some more space. So it even goes yeah, it's actually enough, I would say. Rear seating, let's take a look right here. Inside of the doors is hard pack materials, but again, consider the pricing, which is rather low, then rather soft leatherette right here. Looks like quite some nice space. And what's interesting here, the ISOFIX cover for the child seats, you can just push them in like this, and then you can install them and later on push them back again. It's an interesting idea for sure. Let's take a look at the legroom. This seat is, as I would be driving, as a tall person, and you see it's good legroom offering indeed. So it's not a very long vehicle, but there's plenty of legroom left, and it's a very comfortable seating position here. And also here with 189 or 6'2", there's some headroom left. So very well usable. It's really making a lot of the exterior length, transporting it to the interior space. That's really cool. And it's really decent comfort. You cannot adjust here the back part. It's either folding flat or nothing. But the angle is fine, actually. I'm surprised how comfortable it is, actually. And in the middle part, well, there is this rather large middle tunnel, but you can also sit in the middle part. It's not the, as comfortable as on the outside seats, but this vehicle can house 5 tall adults, indeed. There's a USB-C charger here in the rear part. And finally, let's take a look here. We can fold the middle armrest down. There are more cup holders. You can also use this one here as a ski hatch. As for the panoramic roof, when it's really hot, you have this shade here, and this, really protects the whole vehicle. But you can see how far it goes, and let me show you that. So here we go. So we can lift the shade, and you see it really goes all the way. Some flies here, all the way. Takes some time, but the motor is actually quite silent, so it's not too loud. And this is really cool, especially when you sit here in the rear. Then you can look all the way to the front, and it's also possible to open that whole thing. And yeah, it's really spanning all the way wide of the vehicle, both in width and also in length. Almost convertible feeling in this compact SUV here. Oh, music, yeah. Manual hatch here. Let's take a look at the trunk or the boot. And I feel like, how you move the hatch so and how it goes up, it feels like good quality indeed. And it's 28 cubic feet for the front wheel drive, 25 cubic feet here for the all-wheel drive, because you lose a little bit of height here. The width here is 1 meter or 40 inches, so it's a good width, and the normal length of the trunk is about 85 centimeters or 33 inches. So very reusable. You can also install a cover right here. At the moment it is removed. Well, in a way it's good, because then you can easier fold the seat right here and then reach maximum length to the seat I would be driving as a tall person with like 1 meter 65 or 64 inches. What else is interesting, that when we lift this one here, there is a spare tire underneath. Under the hood we have a 1.5 TSI, 4-cylinder, turbocharged, one at 60 horsepower, front wheel drive or all-wheel drive, automatic gearbox, and if you go for the all-wheel drive model, you have the dual clutch transmission as auto gearbox. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge with the Volkswagen Taos, and we'll start here in downtown LA, because this is supposed to be VW's budget SUV for the US that more people are able to afford, and then, for example, also do some city driving, because it still has a rather decent size and it's not too big actually. And that's again a good advantage for driving in the city. It is indeed rather compact, so when it's getting a little bit narrow somewhere in the street, for example, it's not getting annoying, and you can find a good parking spot, even though when the parking spot is not too large and so on. At the same time, it's not a tiny one, so maybe when you're next to bigger SUVs or sedans or also some trucks, you don't feel like too tiny actually. So I think it's really a right-sized SUV that serves so many purposes. It is equipped with the 1.5 TSI 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine here with 160 horsepower, either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Here we are driving the all-wheel drive version, and it is with a clutch in the middle. That means we have still predominantly front-wheel drive, and if we hammer the throttle, then we also have the rear axle on demand. So the more you apply the throttle, the more you also have support from the rear wheels. It will remain then with this front wheel bias, but that's not too bad actually. It's not that you would plan to drive very sporty in this one. However, it does feel quite agile, and we know from Europe, the Volkswagen T-Roc. That's a little bit smaller than this one. And in Europe we have the EU Tiguan, which is almost the same size than this one. And the Tiguan Allspace in the EU is the normal Tiguan in the US. And that is a little bit longer than this one. So when I'm driving this one here, from a European perspective, this one here feels like something between T-Roc and Tiguan. And that's not a bad thing at all. And it feels actually very good in driving. See here, the steering is very precise and progressive. You don't have to steer too much. The US spec versions, I feel that the steering is rather a little bit softer. I also felt it when driving the Volkswagen Atlas, for example. But here I found that the steering is actually better than in the Atlas. In the Atlas you have more play here in the low degree angle, and that's not the case here. Even if you have slight steering degree turns, you do have a feedback, so I think a very good steering setup here. It also changes a little bit depending on the driving mode. For example, you can go to the sports mode, then there's more throttle response, RPMs are turned up higher as well before the next shifting is taking place, and then also the steering has some more resistance. But you can also, for example, set a custom mode, and in that custom mode, for example, I adjusted it on the parking lot before, they have here a safety function that you cannot change while driving. I think it's different in the EU. So in that way, for example, I've set the custom mode, that everything else is set to the normal, but just the steering is set to a little bit more resistance. That would be my favorite setup, because I like to have more natural resistance feeling in the steering actually, but want to leave everything else as it is. And that you can have by this custom mode. For example, I've did exactly the same here now. There is a great overview with this vehicle, especially here on the motorway. If you think like who's right, who's left, you know, it's for me always a little bit special, because on US motorways you can get overtaken, or you can overtake people left and right. And in Europe it's actually really strictly only allowed to overtake on the left. So it's good to have a good overview here, but you also have a blind spot monitor that appears then when someone is about to overtake you, and it's also appearing quite early, that warning. Suspension wise, there's just a normal suspension available here. There is the blind spot monitor. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's like and when I set the turning indicator, then it also has a flashing effect, even warning me further. So that's a very, very good safety feature to have. And I'm feeling fairly comfortable here on the motorway. We are at 55 miles per hour, so around 100 kilometers an hour. And wind noises are actually quite good, so it's not too loud in here. And the good thing here about the Taos is really, it is an agile, versatile SUV. So you already feel like you could go on a longer road trip with this one, because the seating position is upright and comfortable. If you go for the lower trim specs, where you have the fabric seating surface, this will deliver even more comfort. Here the animal skin seating tends to get hotter in summer times, and also since the material is stiffer, it doesn't adapt to the body that well. So that is still good comfort, because the seat ergonomics is great, especially for tall people. That's the thing, has been for decades with Volkswagen vehicles and also Audi. They always had good ergonomics, together with Volvo as well, for tall people. That's really important to me then, of course, in this case. And the comfort, seating comfort while driving is even better when you have then the fabric seats. So you can save money, go for the lower trim versions, and have even more comfort. So it is a good vehicle here for the motorway. At the same time, it is also a good vehicle actually for winding corners. We will also do that very soon. Check out more about that, also steering, agile driving and so on. But this is to me really the special thing about this vehicle, and it's the same also with the EU Tiguan. Well, in a way also with the US Tiguan, because it is slightly longer, and you can also have this 7-seater option in the Tiguan, or Tiguan Allspace as we call it in the EU then. But they both drive kind of similar, so not a large difference. The Tiguan you would rather pick if you want a little bit more space, or that 7-seater option that you have that, you know, just when you need it actually. And this one here, when you want to save money, and we have to go here. So this one here, when you want to save money and don't need the space actually. But to me, this all feels really fine here. Also getting off the motorway, it is actually a very fun ride. And to me, is really crucial because we're all car enthusiasts here watching our program, but not everyone can or wants to spend so much money on a vehicle. And that's why I love vehicles that are kind of affordable, at the same time deliver driving fun, and you have basically everything you need, you know, and you have no features like, oh my God, really? Some cars do have that, you know, and that's why I love also vehicles like, you know, Honda HR-V or Honda CR-V or Honda Civic or like here the VW Taos. They are everyday driving vehicles which are fun to drive without spending too much money on, and they already deliver you all you need. That's really cool. And to me, crucial thing is really the steering feeling. It really gives you a great natural connection to the vehicle. Here now, speed hump. Yeah, the suspension is actually fine, you know. So we also have the rather bigger wheels for this vehicle here on the but they also do a good job. They of course are beautiful visually. If you go for the smaller wheels, you will have a little bit more dampening covered from the tire, but both will work fine. Screen size is also large enough for me here. That's fine. I have my my Google Maps here connected. You could also use the car internal GPS, but Google Maps or Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, they also just deliver you a better connection. Here now, acceleration. Plop, that was like a 0 to 40 miles an hour acceleration. It's not the most powerful engine. It also, you know, you could feel that the engine is working actually, but it's fine, you know. When you do like the 0-2 start, okay, it's working a little bit, but it's still fine. And this was also the normal mode. We can also, at the next chance, put it to sport mode and see how about difference there that in the sport mode, the RPMs will just be turned up higher and the shifting will be later, so the acceleration will be a little bit quicker. But it's also the right sized engine for this vehicle. It's powerful enough. Due to the turbo, you also still have some acceleration when you're on the motorway, and you still need some acceleration more. So that's actually also fine. And I think they nailed it really with the package here. And Volkswagen is so extremely successful still in the European market and has been a market leader there and also in China. But in the US, they have been struggling with sales, especially in the past years. Although their portfolio here with the Taos, for example, and also with the Atlas, is not too bad. So the SUVs are actually doing a good job. Problem is, of course, when they have like the big competition, especially with Toyota, that Toyota, especially among US customers, has scored so well with the reliability figures. And the running time of the cars in the US is always longer. The average, the daily commuting time, so like, and also the daily kilometers commuting. So in Europe, we have like an average of 20 to 30 kilometers a day in average. And in the US, it's usually double, like 50 to 60 kilometers a day. And that, of course, more takes also focus on, hey, which car is really more reliable? And Toyota and Lexus, always when there are new reliability figures, they always score the first and second spot. And this, I think, something where Volkswagen has to work, especially with the US customers, to show like, hey, you know, we also want to go more on the reliability focus. So in Germany, I didn't have too many problems with the VWs yet, as for reliability, rather with the more recent vehicles, with the software and so on. But maybe you can also share your experience in the reliability with your Volkswagen, with your VW customer. This, however, here is not the all-new thing, platform software, and that's a good thing, because this older software, older touchscreen generation here is doing a great job. You know, it doesn't have the biggest size, it doesn't do some fancy things, but at the same time, it also doesn't do some faults while driving, and that's fine. It's all I need here, this screen and my smartphone mirroring, and this is then indeed a reliable screen mirroring. When I go to the sport mode here, by the way, once again, it really changes how the vehicle is approaching things. So when you're driving really slowly, you don't really feel a big difference or something. But when you hammer the throttle then the difference becomes obvious. Now let's see. That was like 10 to 35, and you heard there was no shifting at all in this case. Here, it's keeping the RPM. This is then the sport mode, and you have a little bit more feedback. Yeah, of course, it won't be the sportiest vehicle overall, but once again, keeping the price in mind. And I think that's the important thing with this vehicle. We can also think about an adaptive suspension. That would be more one thing that could increase the ride here, the riding comfort. But then again, that would also boost the price. So I can understand this product policy then in this case. And some more nice cornering here. This is where this vehicle is really a lot of fun. It has really very nice and fun handling. Of course, uphill it's not so powerful as for the engine. Yeah, but it's actually totally fine, I would say. Yeah, also when you have like a stop sign uphill, for what reason there's a stop sign here? I don't know. And you might ask yourself, okay, the price is really nice and so on, what's the catch? And our final test consumption for today, 27 mpg US, that's like 32 mpg UK. That's some 9 liters on 100 kilometers. And that's just too much for a car of that size. Well, now it's official. One of the first manufacturers skips #capacitive BS buttons and goes back to the real thing, real climate knobs and more. Well, and we found that in the all-new Honda HR-V. Can it be one of the best city SUVs? Let's find out. You have tuned into Autogefühl with Thomas. Please subscribe if you haven't done so far. And thanks also to the Heinen dealership for supplying us the vehicle. Here, the all-new HR-V. Look at that, what a strong and cool look here. I mean, it's a small SUV, but here very bold horizontal fins, Honda logo, and then really slim and wide daytime running lights. So I think they really nailed it here with the styling. Or what's your take? Tell me in the comments. Main headlamp unit below, also full LED. And the turning indicators cascading. Look at that. Pretty fancy, isn't it? The length at 4.34 m or 171 inches, hardly longer than before, but it now has this kind of SUV coupe shape here, so definitely a sporty look. And I think also in the side profile, it's a simple design, but it just works, doesn't it? 18-inch wheels here, also pretty massive. Black is the design scheme for today. So overall, I think maybe they really nailed it. Just have to repeat it design-wise. And I mean, the HR-V isn't famous for being like the design vehicle. I mean, there were generations which were very unique, but this one here, probably the most sporty one. Here, by the way, the rear doors are attached right here, so you have the handle right here. This is also good for the integration that you don't have additional door handles here. Also here in the rear, a very clean design. Here the silver contrast then, no fake exhaust at all. And then the beautiful light signature goes all the way across. Also modern signature here. It does remind me of a special vehicle I've seen before though. I don't remember quite now, but maybe you help me out in the comments and then, then maybe I remember. Thank you so much for that already in advance. And by the way, especially here from the rear, you can see that it does have some ground clearance. I mean, it is somewhat off-road capable. In this generation, they even improved the ground clearance by 10 millimeters. Not that much, but you still see you can have something underneath that. Turning indicators here in the rear, by the way, not that fancy as we've seen in the front. And here, the EHEV badge. What do they mean by EHEV actually? That's a special hybrid system, but what is it? Depending on the market, there comes a 1.5 liter petrol engine, or especially for Europe, the 1.5S hybrid with a very interesting technology. So it either runs pure petrol at higher speeds, motorway or something, or pure electric at lower speeds, or the engine, combustion engine, runs as a generator, but it drives on electric. So really depending on the drive situation, does that work? We'll find out. Car key, simple and small, does the job. Door closing sound. Not too bad. Inside of the door here on the top part is somewhat soft, yes, even softer than here for your elbow. High gloss piano lacquer. This of course not that premium-like, but that's also not the approach of this vehicle. But the door handle here from the inside is actually quite nice. Total fresh design for the interior. The steering wheel looks really sporty, right? And also real buttons at the steering wheel. Left side to control some of the digital instruments, for example, and volume. Right side then for the cruise control. Yay, and real handles here for this vent. And Also with clicking sounds, awesome. Seats either come with pure fabric as a base version, or then here, fabric inside, leatherette outside, animal free, either here in this rather subtle black trim. But there's also a very nice bright or beige or white, however you want to call it, oyster maybe trim available, fabric inside, outside. Then this beige leatherette, that looks really cool, right? This one here, however, has the bright ceiling. This also brings some light in the interior. Seating in the front is fairly comfortable. 1.86 or 6'1", still some headroom left. The car is small, but it offers ample of space. Steering wheel control, up and down, in and out, both is possible. Sounds a little bit weird sometimes, but I mean, yeah, we can easily live with that. So far, good comfort. Maybe the seats could be a little bit wider for tall people, that's maybe it. But overall, I mean, it will even get better in the rear very soon when you talk about the relation of length and space. You'll see. Interior overview, clean and great user interface. You do have this touchscreen, 9-inch, but then here these manual dials. I just love them. Steering wheel, good size, great to handle indeed. And here this horizontal stress. Do you see that? Also a separate button here for the heated steering wheel at the steering wheel column. To me, I really want these features to be able to control the car while driving. And now I want you to watch closely. Do you see that? That small arrow there? That's an analog arrow. I'm not sure if you can really see that, but on the right side it's different than from the left side, because here the left side is a screen, the right side is analog, so it's a mix, you know. So yeah, it's kind of deceiving. So on the right side you have the speed and it's kind of like backlit, but not the screen. And from here, there the screen begins, 7-inch, to the left side, and then you can actually change the contents on the left side, for example, as for, you know, fuel economy. That can be a little bit better, by the way. Soon more telling you about that. Here, power flow, for example, power in charge, and so on. Then this main infotainment screen, they promised half of the operating time, and you see, it's really quicker than before. You know, that looks quite good. There is also a car internal GPS available. However, let's see, it's not the best one, it's not the worst one. I would say something in between. Most of the time probably people will use their smartphone connection. It's good that we still have a home button and also a back button and still a volume button here, and even for skipping music. So I think this, once again, a good combination. You do have that touchscreen and you do have your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but still you have the real dials. And the Apple CarPlay integration looks like this, goes all the way over the screen. And what's quite amazing is that the sound system of this vehicle here, although it's not like the high price segment, is really good. It sounds really amazing. I wonder about that. This, by the way, also one of my favorite songs of all time. It has everything, like, you know, dream, a little bit of sorrow, but also a lot of hope and eternity. Rear view camera though is not such a good quality. Yes, and here we go. My favorite feature of this vehicle. Listen to that. Yes, and even the ring around it, do you see? Turns red or cold or blue for cold. This is awesome, you know. No, we actually shouldn't buy Audi BMW Mercedes. We should buy Honda now for premium AC units. Who would have thought that a couple of years ago? Clicking sound also for the seat heating. This is just great. And even here, these are great clicking sounds. I'm really amazed by that. Lower middle console, USB charger is here, connector is here. Then here the big shifting, you can put it to the B mode. That's then the recuperation mode. So we'll talk about more that when we drive the car. Here in front for your smartphone, 12-volt power supply. And we have a drive mode selector right here, and also electric handbrake. Cup holders, nice. Also really adaptive. And armrest here, plush. Not that well attached though, but then you have some space underneath. Remember, this is a small SUV. Headroom with 1.86 or 6'1", still some left, although it has this sportier shape now. And come on, really? Legroom? Well, this is like a luxury sedan, over 5 meters and over 200 inches. That's astonishing. Wow. And I mean, this makes it really segment leading. As for, you know, this ratio between exterior length and the space you have on the inside. The middle seat here is, yeah, not really suitable, I would say, rather sitting on the outside. But on the outside, it's really soft and comfortable. So I really like these seats indeed. And here the middle part, let me fold down, not adaptive though. And this just folds down like this. So yeah, that's not my favorite part. But my absolute favorite features are the magic seats. They still come with the HRV. You fold this up like this, you put this one down, and then you attach it like here, and then you can transport a plant or something else bulky. This is just amazing, isn't it? And I mean, you can also do some real fun stuff then with that vehicle. You can fold the other part here as well, like this, and then you can, basically walk through the rear. Well, let's take a look at the trunk. Here now also an electric hatch. And here we go. There is this rugged rubber cover available from the accessory part, but you don't have to go for it. Width here easily 1 meter or 40 inches. Here in the front part even a little bit more. And here there's exactly 1 meter or 40 inches. And the length is 70 centimeters or 27 inches. And the total height here in the trunk is 75 centimeters or 29, about 30 inches. So overall well usable, considering it's a small SUV, and you can reach over here, then just fold it flat, and it really goes all the way flat. And then you can see the length here to the seats is 1 meter 65 or 65 inches. Once again, this car is so well usable. Now I removed everything, also this special cover, to show you how flat these seats fold. Look at that. That's really awesome, isn't it? Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge with the Honda HR-V in this new generation. And, well, it's far from being a performance vehicle, but being in our test, it has to face the German Autobahn. So we'll wait for a safe passage on the motorway, start from 40 kilometers an hour, and see how this hybrid goes. Let's go. $100. What the hell? Interesting, yeah, switching the lanes. Let's try once again from 90 then. $130, $140, $150. You heard that CVT like, and now we're at 145, 154. Sorry, yeah. In German it's always the other way around. 154 kilometers an hour. That's it. Of course, it's quite noisy here also at higher speeds, but not as noisy as expected actually. And now let's go back to a reasonable motorway speed, like, you know, let's say like 120 kilometers an hour, 70 miles an hour, and here it's actually fairly comfortable. Suspension also doesn't shake up too much. Steering wheel is actually quite direct. Brakes now, yeah, they're nice. You feel the car doesn't weigh too much, so that's actually a good thing. And overall, I mean, you have this upright seating position. Not too bad as for the motorway performance, I have to say. And I mean, you don't have most fun with this drivetrain, of course, acceleration-wise and so on. But still just did the test now to be, you know, just curious about the features of the vehicle. But the main feature here is, of course, that you have low fuel consumption. So even with motorway included, you can easily score some 5 liters on 1 kilometer, so let's say 50 mpg US, more than 50 mpg UK. It's of course decent, and if you have more city tracker and so on, use more of this electric drive, even better. So even better results are possible. I had that also earlier. That's of course pretty cool. So the system is somewhat complicated, yes, but consumption-wise, it does work. So when we're here at higher speeds, motorway and so on, the wheels are directly powered by the combustion engine. That's of course also the most efficient thing to do. And of course you can also get the non-hybrid version depending on the market. In Germany, for example, you can only get the hybrid. But in US, for example, you will also get the pure combustion engine version. And so far so good, you don't hear it too much actually. And here going, some slalom, it feels actually quite nice and sporty considering it's still an SUV. But then again, you have this more upright seating position, which is again better for long-term comfort travel. Just the head restraints, they are a little bit stiff actually when you lean onto them. Other than that, the seats are actually quite plush. That's okay. So now getting off the motorway, and when I'm off the gas, directly in the pure EV mode again, I'm also gaining back energy. I can either do recuperation with the brake pedal, or I put in here the shifting lever to B mode, and then when I'm off throttle, you have direct recuperation. That is, let's say, easier solution when you're going downhill from a steep mountain for a longer time and you don't have to be on the brake all the time. You put in the B mode, and this is then a helpful thing to have, definitely. But you can adjust the way you want to drive it. I mean, you could also put in the B mode when I say I like a little bit more engine brake, or I like a little bit more recuperation, or this kind of EV feeling. So, but you can vary it, depending on. Let's go with the B mode here, just a little bit more. Now combustion engine is on because I hit the throttle a little bit harder. Now again, just the EV mode. Switches all the time, combustion engine. And of course, in between, sometimes the engine is running, but it's not powering directly the wheels, but then serving as a generator. So three modes, and it's always switching back and forth in between that. You can see that here on the gauges, but it would be too dangerous to watch that all the time. Now here in the B mode, will I have to use the brakes? Let's see. No. Okay, I have to use the brakes. Not taking the chances here. Yeah. So, rather put it here on, like the range or fuel meter or something, and not really watch what's going on right there. Definitely cool thing. I mentioned that in the interior view while I'm driving. Controlling. Yes. The vent strength and the temperature and the vents here, how I want to have them. It's so awesome that they went back here with the manual climate dials. That's just so cool, And we really need to have Honda, obviously, to go back to these. I hope other manufacturers also will think about this and go back. I really like the steering wheel. So the steering itself, told you about that. It was quite nice, but the steering wheel itself is quite slim, has a good grip. So it's not the sportiest vehicle, but considering, chassis-wise, it feels pretty good, and there's a big difference to the previous generation. And also that steering wheel form, basically, because it's so sporty. I feel they've really made this generation sportier. Yes, it's not primarily for driving fun, more practicability and so on. But definitely it is sportier than before, no doubt about that. So definitely more driving fun now. And I also feel, the Jazz is the small vehicle, which is kind of, the technological brother or something. But I feel the HR-V is somehow more fun to drive. I don't know, I'm not sure why that is, but it's just the case. So my initial question was also the city SUV. It's really tough, like power-wise, engine-wise, it's not so much fun. We already could expect that, but driving fun-wise, it's actually quite decent. And once again, this great practicability, and then also the good user interface. This is really something, So let's go to speed one more time. See how it behaves here in a fast. It's not that slow though, So I don't feel that on the motorway I don't have enough power or something. it's quite okay. You know, even when you do some overtaking maneuvers, blind spot mode and side mirrors, now it gets really loud. Yeah, from the sound from the engine and of course also wind noise, but still not feeling bad at all here on the motorway. One more fast lane change. Doesn't shake up too much. I have a very good feeling for that vehicle, definitely. Here the bigger wheels in this case also help. Yet again, suspension, which sometimes was for Honda a little bit bumpy, especially when there was some bumps in the road. Here also a good compromise, although it's not the smallest wheel size. Actually, I'm quite happy with the suspension here today. I think they found a good compromise. It's not too soft. Yet again, it delivers you enough dampening comfort. So, and I mean really about driving fun. Shall we try some more winding corners and then see about that? Let's do that. So now really in our winding corners plus bumpy road, suspension is doing that fairly good actually. And here now as combination, see here steering wheel, yeah, really precise. Yeah, that engine here uphill is working definitely, but like chassis wise, steering wise, suspension wise and fun wise. So besides of that, you know, engine, the car itself is really a lot of fun to drive. It's just again, and also that with the CVT, you have this very spontaneous reaction and so on. But, you know, as for the driving agility, this is a lot of fun actually. This review serves dual purpose because on the US market, this is here the Honda HR-V. We have a different HR-V in Europe actually, looks completely different and is also shorter, smaller. At the same time, this will be, in Europe and Japan, the Honda ZR-V or ZR-V. So they have different naming strategies for different markets. So let's go here with US HR-V and European ZR-V here with Thomas and Autogefühl. Let's go. With the front, you can see it's a different front than the EU HR-V. The more roundish front reminds a little bit of a Ford Puma, for example. This color here is, by the way, called Crystal Black. And this then has no contrast to this black grille in this case. The lamps here, modern integration of the daytime running light. And as for the wheels, you either get 17-inch or this vehicle here is the sport trim, and that gives you 18-inch wheels in black. The length is 4 meters 57 or 180 inches, and that is actually very interesting. 24 centimeters or 9 inches longer than the European HR-V. So they are really completely different vehicles dimension-wise and also as for the exterior styling. Here you can see the styling here, prominent with this, you know, matte black part at the rear doors. Other than that, a rather round coupe-ish design right here. Towards the rear, we can see very modern tail lamps. They already begin right here, swing right through. Also with a huge sport badging here. We've seen it also with the black alloy wheels. And a very modern rear overall then here for the US HR-V, which again will be then Z or ZR-V for European and the Japanese market. Large door handles for a compact SUV. I won't do door closing sound today because on the motor shows they tend to lower the windows so that no one goes inside and locks him or herself up. No one can get to the interior. Rather hard-pack materials here the inside, just here for the elbows. It's rather soft. Then you have in this trim here a contrast stitching already inside of the doors. And it is also repeated at the inside steering wheel and also at the seats. And there are beautiful fabric or cloth seats with a nice pattern here. And once again, these bronze contrast stitches. So I think a very interesting design detail. And look at that, this flying middle console, very unusual. Premium manufacturers tend to work with these kind of design elements. Hardly have seen them from manufacturers like Honda, but I mean, why not? And the whole interior here, we've seen it with recent Honda vehicles. They really moved it up more upmarket. So from the things we see and feel, it has become less of a difference between a premium vehicle and this one. Even more so in the Honda Accord or the CR-V, for example. Here, the air vents have a very nice mesh here. Look at that. I'm not sure if they do it, for example, in 3D printing or something. So that looks pretty fancy, actually. And steering wheel up and down, in and out. Rather smooth, no problem at all. And the seating position here is actually fairly comfortable. So very nice comfort in these fabric seats. And with 1 meters 89 or 6'2", I still have plenty of headroom left. interior overview, and what I love again is here this mesh structure at the dashboard. This is also a soft touch, the leatherette surface, very well done, and also fancy. This will display the climate, the temperature. Then nice clicking sounds here also when you turn, the vent strength and also the temperature and so on. So that's very well done. It's so easy, straightforward user interface. There's a small screen here. I expect there will also be a bigger one available. This is just a basic one, so there's not much we can show you here at this moment. Maybe at a later stage when we can also drive the vehicle, but also here volume knob to turn is a very good feature to have. Further down below, we have here the USB-A charging, and the cup holders are also adaptive. Hard to see, but you have to believe me. And then we have here the classic shift lever, small and quite sporty. Driving mode selector as well. It will be mated with a CVT automatic gearbox. Well, this flying middle console, why not? More charging possibilities. And then we can fold up this here, and yeah, oh, astonishingly much space underneath. Steering wheel. Have here cruise control settings, a left side for volume. They have even a good build quality with clicking sounds, really like that. And then the instruments have a mix, left side 7-inch screen, so the left side is digital and the right side then is still analog. What do you think about that? In the rear you have enough space. Here both headroom also for tall people, 189 or 6'2", and also enough legroom. However, if you now compare it, for example, to the European HRV, I think I even have more knee room here in the European HRV, although this is the shorter vehicle. So the European HRV makes more use of that exterior, well, that shorter exterior length, because you also sit more upright in the rear. Here you rather, fall back a little bit. So the added length that does not change the rear cabin here. Maybe it would rather have an effect on the trunk. But here there is a middle seat here also. Let's try that. Does it work? Yeah, it's not too bad actually. It works also for short ways. And when you adjust the seats here, let's see if we can adjust or only fold. Yeah, that's not adjustable. You can only fold it. But the interesting thing is when you fold it, then it also lifts down. The lower area lifts down a little bit. And let's see. Yeah, another thing is that with the HRV you also have the magic seats, but here you cannot lift them up. And now the trunk or the boot. And I already folded one of the seats here, but the normal length here is like 85 centimeters or 33 inches. And that's the difference then to the European HRV. So this one here, the US HRV or the ZRV, it's just longer here because the European HRV would end here at 70 centimeters. So this is what you have more in the US HRV or more in the comparison to the when it's called Z or Z RV. The width here, you can see here, this is 1 meter or 40 inches between the wheel arches, even wider than here. And you can see you can fold both of these seats, and the total length is almost 170 or 66 inches. Engine, a 2-liter engine, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive with 160 horsepower, about for the US market. EU and Japanese spec then for the Z or ZRV will be a 2-liter hybrid. So what do I think? The only advantage the American HRV or then the Z or ZRV will deliver in comparison to the European HRV is actually more trunk length. Other than that, I feel that the European HRV is the better vehicle. It is shorter overall. At the same time, you have more legroom, just a little shorter trunk, but you sit a little bit more upright. I think it's the more useful vehicle, I think. It's also available as a hybrid, this e-HEV system by Honda, and overall I think it's just the better proposal. So I wonder why they just haven't made this one global decision, say like, hey, we get the HRV in the European spec also the same way for the US market. I think it would work very well.
This is the 2024 Nissan Juke. What's new about it? Is it any better? And should you buy it? I'm AJ, you're watching Autogefühl, and let's dive right in. The first thing you'll notice is the return of this Mark I yellow color. Nissan has been really proud of this in their press release. They've been talking about how they listened to customer feedback and brought back this color. You still have this very Pikachu, cute, round, very funky and youthful design. This is still about 4.2 meters long or 166 inches. However, there is a new variant. This is the top of the range N Sport. It gets things like this contrasting black roof as well as more black cladding lower down. There's also new wheel designs. Based on the trim, you get some different specific options as well. I do like this very glossy 19-inch wheels on this. What about you guys? Put it down in the comments below. Well, the front definitely looks like a Pikachu with the round cheeks. The rear is a little bit more serious, but still very three-dimensional and sculpted. And a sloping windshield, but how does that translate to the interior trunk volume? We'll see in a minute. Lower down, a pretty neat bumper design, and thankfully, no fake exhaust tips. Here we have the key fob, not very spectacular, but the interior, well, that's a whole different story. Materials on the top of the door are a bit hard, but you have some mood lighting right here. I always love nice ambient lighting in a car. Soft padded materials here, and that contrast stitching, that yellow color, it's kind of littered all across the interior. Glossy black, however, right here. Nice storage. If we look inside, you have different interior seat color options. This being the N Sport, this is with the yellow cross stitching and yellow Alcantara on the top. Animal-free seats, and even the dashboard has further Alcantara and yellow dashes up here. But the big talking point, if you haven't already noticed, is the new infotainment system. So, how's it like getting in? Actually, even though this is a small urban crossover, the seating position is quite upright. It is feeling like an SUV in here. The steering wheel also is really nice and big, and this new 12.3 touchscreen infotainment system is also tilted towards me ever so slightly, and this is a really engaging cockpit. Nice material up here, a damped glove box, which is actually quite large, a little bit larger in this generation. And this 12.3-inch touchscreen, really nice, crisp display, a little bit laggy, but even the 360 camera and the reversing camera has good resolution. You can also choose the widgets in the home screen layout, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, although the navigation doesn't come onto your cockpit here. Only the inbuilt navigation is displayed over there. Hotkey buttons with a volume knob. Hallelujah. Really easy. Big old camera button. I love that. Air conditioning vents, climatization, separate unit with knobs and manual buttons. So really well executed. Wireless charger right here. And this is not cooled on its own. Couple USB chargers, a 12-volt power socket. And here, nice quality. Fit and finish is pretty good in these areas. Some of the areas further down, not the greatest, but I can forgive it. You have your gear selector, driving mode selector here. Electronic parking brake now is standard. The e-pedal and EV buttons are separated over here. Cup holders without any adaptive clamps. And finally, an armrest which doesn't slide up or down, but goes up to reveal a pretty small cubby down there. Buttons galore on the steering wheel, and I do mean actual buttons and not capacitive pads. You get paddle shifters if you have the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. This digital instruments, also 12.3 inches, has been improved for this model year. And look at those cool 3D looking gauges on the side for the RPM and the speedometer. You can have the inbuilt navigation on the screen here, but also a host of different useful views, including all of the assistance systems that you've currently activated. You also get the optional Bose sound system with integrated speakers in the headrest, and while I can't play copyright music to show you how it sounds, and this microphone wouldn't do it justice, here's a reaction of me when I had the music pumping in this car. The handle for the rear doors is up here. This is not a big opening, but that being considered, it's pretty tall, and getting inside is pretty easy. Materials on the door, it's a little bit of a different story. It's pretty hard, and a little bit of padding here, but overall, you can see where they've done some cost cutting. Still, some space to store a water bottle. The seats, however, are actually very comfortable. So they've paid attention and put money where it makes the most amount of sense. That also being said, they've also paid attention to detail. So I really love this little place to keep the seat belt when you fold the seats down. The ISOFIX mounting points are covered by a flap that hinges up so it doesn't fall out and you're not going to lose it. There's also decent seat back pockets here to keep some items. Not much of a transmission tunnel as well. So 3 people in a pinch, sure, can sit pretty comfortably. Charging as well. No air conditioning vents. Overall, I wish there was a lighter interior in this model. So if I were you, I would definitely pick a lighter color just so that it feels a bit more airy, especially in the back here. I have plenty of headroom though, so I'm about 5'8" or 1.7 meters. This is set to my driving position, so you can see I have decent knee room, and because of that SUV seating style, you have the seat a little bit higher, and that also means that as a passenger sitting behind the driver, I also have more room to slide my feet under the front seat. So space is actually not bad. They've maintained a compact exterior, but a pretty well packaged, spacious interior. Despite the sloping window, you actually get up to 422 liters of trunk volume. A little bit less if you have the spare wheel, and lesser still if you have the hybrid because the battery is there. Still, it's a pretty wide loading area, about 101 centimeters or about 39 inches. And while there are no cubbies back here, you can fold the seats down in a nice 60-40 fashion. They do lay pretty flat. And now, of course, your trunk volume is significantly higher. You can also load longer items that you're getting at IKEA, right? So let's see, this is about 57 inches or about 146 centimeters. Not bad. Same engine options are carried over for this model year. So you get a 3-cylinder turbo petrol, which makes 114 horsepower. You can have this with a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Or you get this 4-cylinder 1.6-liter petrol with a electric motor hybrid system and a 1.2 kilowatt hour battery for a combined system output of 143 horsepower. But they're both only front-wheel drive. All right, so how's the Nissan Juke like to drive? We're on the on-ramp, getting onto a highway, heading back into Berlin. So let's talk a little bit about the steering. I'm going around this corner, and the first thing that kind of surprised me pleasantly is how nice the steering is. There's no slack. It's very direct. It's not too jittery, but it's engaging. It gives you good feedback. There's good weight to it as well. The weight increases when you're in the sport mode. In fact, when you're in the sport mode, the petrol engine in this hybrid powertrain takes center stage. You can hear it a lot more. And again, this is not an eCVT, but it's a multi-mode hybrid system. So the engine can be doing its own thing while the electric motor is, supplementing the power and it's charging the battery. It's a very complex interface between these different the drive systems and the drivetrain. But it's not an unpleasant sound. It's a 4-cylinder, it's 1.6 liters, so it's got a little bit of a thrum. I wouldn't say it's enjoyable to listen to, but it does become louder in the sport mode. The steering also becomes tauter. I think the standard mode is probably already fun enough, and given that this is not a sports car, I think this is a good balance in steering weight and the overall punchiness of the powertrain and the drivetrain. Aside from the steering, the visibility is also really good. You are sitting higher up, so this does have a little bit of that SUV stance. And with the wide front windshield, the large windows on the side, this really high headroom, I feel spacious. It feels spacious. I wish there was a lighter roof liner, a lighter color. And the rear window is also surprisingly good. This wide rear view mirror captures the entire space that is, available with the rear window, and I have a good view out back. No thanks in part also with the really nice and crisp reversing camera. So visibility on the highway or in parking garages, definitely thumbs up for that. Noise insulation now at highway speed is actually pretty good too. These are 19-inch wheels with Hankook tires, but they have really good, they're controlling that rolling resistance, and the sound is also not that bad. Wind noise is also pretty minimal. So overall, it's not I was driving the Lexus recently, so make sure you check out that video. It's a different class a little bit, but it's still a crossover, an urban crossover, similar size. That definitely had better sound insulation, but this is definitely not bad. It's not loud like some of the other cars. This car also gets some really nice driver assistance systems. So you have a speed limiter, which is really cool. I have liked the speed limiter to use in the city because I want more control. I want to be the one accelerating because I'm continuously slowing down for pedestrians or cyclists. In a city situation that's more variable, and I want to make sure I don't go over the speed limit and get a speeding ticket, so I'm glad that this is there. But if you press this button here, and I can set the adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist, I set it to the speed limit. This is going to center me in the lane, so it's not just ping-ponging me across the edges of the lane. I can also set the distance I wanted to maintain with the car in front. So all the usual things that we have come to know from other manufacturers as well. And here in the Nissan Juke, it works really confidently. The system doesn't falter. It doesn't. There's no missteps. There's also traffic sign recognition, so it captures the speed limit, shows you that. It also gives you an alert if you're going faster. But I do wish there was a one-key shortcut. There's a button here, there's a dummy which isn't being used for anything. I wish this would have been assigned to that. That the minute the speed limit changes, I can accept the new speed limit as the adaptive cruise control setting or the speed limiter setting, rather than having to press and hold the plus or minus buttons to adapt the speed. Small details like this that I wish this was doing a little bit better. We've been driving for not too long now, but it's giving us, at the moment it says 6 liters for 100 kilometers, 6.2, but we've just started off. And I've been driving earlier before we started filming, and I've seen pretty decent numbers. I would say something around 4.8 to 4.9, especially if you're driving in the city where it gets to use a lot of the electric mode. That's a pretty good number for this hybrid powertrain. Speaking of which, you also have the e-pedal shortcut button down here. When you turn that on, the car just gives you that one pedal control, you know? So the regenerative braking is at a really high setting. So the minute you start easing away from the accelerator pedal, it automatically starts bringing you, slowing you down. And in this way, with just one pedal, you're able to almost completely control and modulate your speed in the city. The steering radius is also really tight. So parking and maneuvering, doing U-turns, very, very capable, very easy. But on the highway as well, it's very confidence-inspiring thanks to these assistance systems. It feels very planted, and this heavy weight in the steering and this suspension, which is a little bit on the stiffer side, if I'm honest, but the benefit of that is that, like at higher speeds as we go around this corner, the car is very planted. It's very composed. There's very little body roll to speak of. So I think it's a good combination, but just keep in mind it's a little bit, ever so slightly, on the firmer side. We were going on some dirt tracks, as you saw when we were filming the statics earlier, and it did feel a bit jiggly and jittery on the inside on those gravel tracks. So this is the hybrid, right? So there is the 1.6 four-cylinder petrol, and there's the electric system, the electric motor, and the 1.2 kilowatt-hour battery. You can feel the transition between the petrol and the electric drive, but it's very smooth. It's not an eCVT per se, it's a multimodal automatic. It's a little bit more complicated, I guess, but the engine tends to drone, not in a rubber band CVT kind of a way, but you can hear it a little bit louder because it might shift into that specific mode because it needs to charge the battery or to provide extra power. So it's continuously kind of doing its own thing. It does get louder when you're accelerating hard, when you put your foot down, and especially when you go into the sport mode, then the petrol engine is definitely at the forefront, although the electric motor is happy to assist. It jumps in a lot more, and when you put your foot down like this, quick overtakes are also handled really easily. And in the sport mode here, and as I'm going around this bend, the steering also feels a lot heavier. Body control is also really well contained. So the engine and the transmission with this multi-mode hybrid system is as expected. It's not necessarily anything revolutionary. I find that it's as good as the competition. It's nothing specifically better than them. So off the highway and into the city, here in Berlin, the trip computer says we're getting 4.8 liters for 100 kilometers. So there you go. Pretty good number. And this is why I like strong hybrids. Plug-in hybrids, yes, but they make sense when you're able to charge them yourself at home every night. But if you can't, a strong hybrid like this still ensures that you're driving in electric mode in the city and then in petrol on the highway. And because the battery is lightweight, only 1.2 kilowatt hours, it's not causing extra, it's not using up energy just because it needs to be hauled around. So 4.8 I think is a good respectable number. The base variant starts at around 25,000 euros, but the N Sport Hybrid, is around 35,000 euros. You keep the right options and you can hover around 30, and I think that's the sweet spot for the Juke. Overall, today, I came away pretty impressed. It's compact, which means it's easy to park, and a short turning radius means it's easy in the city, but the interior packaging means there's a lot of room on the inside. The suspension is a little bit on the firmer side, but that handles really well out on twisty roads with that really communicative steering. This 1.6 hybrid is also the pick between the two engines, in my opinion. But what about you? What do you think of this car? Put it down in the comments below.
Today we are driving the all-new Dacia Duster, and we'll solve the question. Yes, it's one of the most affordable SUVs, but what can it do for that price? We'll go in detail on the pricing, and of course, what does it deliver for that? Do you feel it's a more affordable SUV? We'll find out with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. All new Dacia Duster here in the front. It looks really strong, doesn't it? Sandstone color, I love that color. And also here, this carving in on the hood, it has a real, true off-road character. Also here, with this very rugged look in the lower part, that does fit the vehicle very well. LED main headlamps and also a nice signature here. And towards the side, it's 4.34 m or 171 inches, more or less the same if you compare the previous generation. Here also these recycled materials already on the exterior, more recycling materials on the interior. They push into the sustainability direction, which is good. Sizes of the wheels start 16-inch steel, then 70, and these here are 18-inch. This is the biggest ones available. We also test drive them if they still give good comfort and so on. This is the coolest in the looks, definitely. Here with the bronze or copper accentuation. This is the extreme trim, the highest trim. And indeed, Dacia customers usually go, meanwhile, for the highest trim. Why is that? People from other, more expensive brands say like, hey, I don't want to go for these extreme prices anymore. I want a real affordable car. But then again, because I save so much money in comparison to other brands, I still go for the highest trim. That's a very interesting trend, isn't it? It is also off-road capable, not only suggesting by the look. It has an ascending angle of 31 degrees, descending angle 36 degrees, ground clearance up to 22 centimeters or 8.5 inches if you go with the all-wheel drive version, which is a centimeter higher actually than the front-wheel drive versions. In the rear, a nice modern signature for the tail lamps as well. And once again, this very rugged look here. Huge Dacia lettering. We see that more and more, and it has been criticized in recent videos, that the manufacturers go away from the logo, but more to a lettering than in the rear. What's your opinion on that? Please tell me in the comments. Well, design-wise, I already have to say, they really managed it that people do not buy this car only because it's more affordable, but because they love the design on the exterior. And I do as well. But the big question is, what does it hold on the interior? And even more important, what is it capable of in driving? We'll find out very soon. Key cards, this is the key fob. DC Comics, anyone? From the logo. And then here, door closing sound. It's actually quite solid, so we don't feel any cost saving right there, also from the rear. Also quite nice. Then inside of the doors, well, this is then here. Everything is hard pack, no covering on the inside and so on. There things will fly all over the place actually. And then the interior, also from the look, is very interesting. Steering wheel with real buttons for the cruise control, for example. Right side then to control something in the instruments. I really like these air vents here. They have a very nice modern styling and orient on the logo. Also this then here, a different color, for example. Hard pack, of course, then here everything. There you see some of the cost savings where it explains the price. This is the extreme trim level. There you can also see these special seats. This is some kind of like neoprene-like structure. It can be wiped clean easy. So this is like for off-road use. I have to say, however, when I did a test seat in them earlier already, they are comfortable at first, but when it's really, really hot, then they also get hot. So there I do recommend more the Journey trim, where you have like this denim blue fabric-like seats. I love them styling-wise and also comfort-wise, because I feel these here are getting hotter easier. So base trim would also be possible, but my friend like would be, I think, the Journey trim level. Steering wheel in and out, up and down, easy to control. And now have digital instruments. And there we have this cockpit perspective, also nicely with the color contrast, the Duster embossed in here. That's actually pretty cool. Well, and this is a 10-inch screen actually. It does have some basic functions on top to, for example, activate or deactivate it, but it would be just totally blanky without the screen. But it's possible just to use the smartphone here as a holder. Why not? Other than that, this here does have smartphone mirroring, or also, for example, some functions in itself. It even has a car internal GPS, here Android, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto also possible, or then a HERE navigation. This would be the alternative. Yeah, but the infotainment system itself is not the quickest one. I would probably use it just for the smartphone mirroring then to be a little bit better there. But my favorite feature is here. Climate unit, plus minus, vent strength or fan speed. And it even sounds really good. You know, I'm a big fan of these clicking sounds, definitely. Very rugged interior, everything hard plastic. Some space for the smartphone here. Lower part is inductive charging pad. It does overheat though quite quickly. And this here, the automatic shifting lever, only with the hybrid. Oh, and by the way, when I was turning in the like assistant here for like reverse camera, then, but you can actually turn down the volume in the infotainment system for that, and I would really recommend that, because otherwise you get nuts. Glove box here falls down super quickly. It's not dampened. These are the small details where you say like, hey, you pay less money, then you also get less of these comfort features. And then the question is it important for you, these small little details, or not? Middle armrest here is covered somewhat. It's still quite hard. You can fold up, much space there. Cup holders here are not adaptive, but they have different sizes at least. And the instruments, they also have this logic. It starts with 3.5 inch, just a small screen, and analog instruments on the left, right, and these then are the fully digital instruments. They're even somewhat adjustable, and that's giving you different views, but they're also kind of slow in the build-up and so on. All over the vehicle you have the so-called U-clip here. For example, you can add this bag hanger here in the front, but you can also add another here another cup holder. This would also be possible. And then at the cup holder, at the cup holder, you can add once again these other things, or also here like a small torch. You can put them in the front, you can put them in the rear, but also in the trunk. So you're very flexible with that. I think it's a very nice rear. It's not a long vehicle. However, here headroom is fine with 189, 6'2". Legroom, however, when I'm driving as a tall person, I do hit the seat here already. It's okay because it's soft. Yeah, but it's still, I think, okay. It does house 4 adults if you stretch the legs a little bit. So that's okay. And also the comfort is actually quite good. Like this, you can theoretically also sit in the middle. It's also soft enough. Yeah, I think it's over quite okay. Hardback materials and everywhere, of course. And this extreme trim here also has these special floor mats. I can also take one out easily like this. And they're from recycled materials. The only thing is rubber is easy to clean, and like you can just spray them off, maybe in the garden or something. But it can be, depending on maybe also like the cleaning detergent you use. So I wouldn't use anything with it besides clean water, because they can be kind of slippery. Maybe it depends also on the on the soles under your shoes. But here for me at the moment it's really slippery, so you have to be careful when getting in and out. I do prefer the fabric floor mats then in this respect. Luggage capacity is 430 liters for the hybrid, 520 liters for the petrol engine front-wheel drive, Well, because of the space underneath, but on top of that, it's more or less all of the same as in the base usability. 1 meter or 40 inches in width. Then the length is about 90 centimeters or 35 inches, so very well usable. I like that. This is like this rubber mat here once again. To fold the seats, it's hardly possible for me here, especially when this top cover is in. You can remove that, of course. You have to go around and then fold the seats from here. And you have to find then this small ledge. So then you can also fold it like this. Engines, 3 basic choices. You start with LPG. 1 liter, 3-cylinder, around 100 horsepower. It's also the slowest one. It runs on LPG and petrol on demand, but usually makes more sense when you go for the LPG. Then, above that, 1.2 liter 3-cylinder petrol engine with 130 horsepower, front-wheel drive, or also all-wheel drive. The front-wheel drive version is also at 10 seconds in the acceleration figure, and the same acceleration figure for the 1.6 liter hybrid. This is the only 4-cylinder. We see it right here. Also front-wheel drive, and we'll see what kind of mileage we can get with this one in here today. Will be very exciting. Only if you go for the pure petrol all-wheel drive version, then you also get this 1 centimeter more of ground clearance than for off-road driving. You see they are not too powerful overall. They are also more lower budget and also more economical in the consumption and so on. That is the basic concept behind it. So what would be the main reason to go here for this hybrid, although it's the most expensive one? This is the only automatic gearbox. Well, and you saw here the gas struts. Look at that. Even the Golf 8 doesn't have that anymore. 2 actually. Yeah, nice also for the mechanics to work on it, and also here the proper dampening underneath. Let's go. Plop. That was 0 to 80 kilometers an hour. I mean, quite okay. At least you heard all the sunglasses and everything in the side pockets sliding backwards, because there's no felt covering on the inside, obviously, at this price point. It's always interesting to hear that, right? So the official acceleration figure is about 10 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. And that's the same here for the hybrid we're driving. The 4-cylinder hybrid, 1.6 liter, and also for the petrol engine, the 3-cylinder petrol engine. So you have to live with this 10 seconds. Can't be any faster here for the Dacia Duster. 11 seconds then for the all-wheel drive version, and the LPG version is also even behind that. So this one is more or less in together with the normal front-wheel drive petrol, the quickest one for this one. So this is also one of the compromises you have to live with, but if you pay a lower price for a vehicle, that you don't get the most powerful engines, because they are also pricey to build. And also the front hood, you can see while driving, is really high. You see these indentations there. It looks really powerful, off-roadish. At the same time, when you don't have the seat pumped up too high, it can maybe also blocking the view. That's always like pro and con of the design. So let's pick it up in the speed, go to about 120 kilometers an hour here on the motorway in southern Spain. Here we go. Still, actually, I mean, it's obviously not the most aerodynamic form from the outside perspective, but being on the inside, it's actually not too bad. So you can't complain about the noise insulation here. So that I think we can check. Then suspension. You know, when vehicles are rather affordable, sometimes they have a bad suspension. Here, you remember, it's an off-road vehicle as well, which can do some true off-roading. And thus, the suspension is set on, that it's also off-road capable, is also still somewhat comfortable in off-roading. And although we have the 18-inch wheels here, the biggest ones that are available, it's not uncomfortable at all. So it's more a little bit soft and floaty. And I think it's a good decision, because when you're driving the city over some speed humps and so on, you want that comfort. And also when you're in off-road situations where it gets a little bit rough and so on, you want that extra piece of comfort. And I think that's actually fine. So if you want more road control, then the 18-inch wheels are also a good decision. If you think really about more off-roading, then of course you could also stick with the smaller wheel sizes. That could be then the pick for you. But the question is, does the vehicle majorly shake up or something when I'm doing like this? Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, so there you feel this off-road character. Wow. Yeah, that's hardly you have with modern SUVs, modern cars and so on. Usually they don't shake up that much. So that's the downside of this off-roadish soft suspension. You have to know that. So any agile maneuvers or sudden lane changes, you have to be aware of that, and that can be maybe with a little bit less control then. However, it does give you that very unique feeling. So even though when you're driving it on the road, it still gives you this off-roadish feeling. And I found it also pretty cool. Let's say like the small vehicle that is closest to that would be to me a Suzuki Jimny, for example. You know, that also is so unique and very soft in the suspension. Just that the Jimny is definitely catching more side winds. This is, I mean, it's kind of wind here also on the motorway today, but it's not catching too much side wind. That is actually then still fine. We talked about in the interior part about these slippery floor mats. Still not quite sure if it's just the material or if it's the detergent that was maybe used for cleaning, but they are really slippery also while driving. So when you slide over, to use the pedals, so cannot recommend them here in the extreme trim. So better get some normal fabric mats for them or something, unless you have maybe shoes with a very grippy rubber sole or something that might change that in a way. Talking about the assistance systems, so there is a blind spot monitor in the side mirror. Let's see if someone catches us here. Maybe let's put always have to be aware of sudden lane changes. There we go. So there's like a small dot in the side mirror, appearing quite late, only in the moment where you have the vehicle in the blind spot. So this is more the philosophy that the other French manufacturers like Peugeot and Citroën and so on go, whereas most other manufacturers warn way more in advance when someone is in the blind spot. And I like more the advance warning, I have to say. On the other hand, this is in a way more predictable, I would say. Then we can also, for example, set here a speed limiter, left side of the steering wheel, or the cruise control. You can click that through, and then with your left thumb also set the speed right here. Sometimes you hear from the engine that it's a little bit, working here, for example, uphill. So you have these situations where you feel, it feels a little bit, like I guess it's working too much, I would actually say. So it is already higher in displacement than the petrol engine. Then again, it's not much more powerful in the acceleration, but you have to live then with these rather small engines for that. At least you have 4 cylinders here. But earlier when we were in the parking garage, then this hybrid system also played a role, because you have also the battery status there. When you're just like rolling, then you can use this hybrid system. It drives then, some periods fully electric when you leave the throttle at lower speeds and so on. And then you can maybe drive all silent around the neighborhood. Yeah, so you have to know that the off-road character of the vehicle is felt on the road. That is, on the one thing, a disadvantage. On the other hand, it can be contributing to this very unique factor this car is transporting. And you have the rather sluggish engines, also have to live with that. But then again, maybe it also adds to this whole character of the vehicle. And I already see at the moment we are about 5 liters on 100 kilometers, so a quite good consumption figure. So these are more like in the way of 50 mpg US and towards 60 mpg UK figures. This, of course, also then a good thing when you have a very light vehicle and also with an efficient engine concept, then you can also have good consumption figures. Yes, when you, it's also like hearing that. I'm not sure how you can pick it up on camera, but sometimes it's really just too much RPM, and that's also not adding really to there again. And it's kind of like happening randomly at times as well. One more acceleration. Yay, and that is 100. So this was almost 0. Whoa. idea about the noise insulation. I mean, before, when the motorway was like a little bit shielded left and right, and also when we're going in the tunnel, not so much wind being applied, in about like less than 100 kilometers an hour, less than 60 miles an hour, I thought like, noise insulation is fine. Yeah, but then when you go a little bit quicker than 100 kilometers an hour, quicker than 60 miles an hour, and the area is more open left and right, and the wind can really push against the front windshield, boy, it gets loud then in here, and you feel all the forces of the wind. So yes, this building style and some cost savings, as for not too much insulation. Now probably you can pick that up on camera now. Yeah, this is getting quite noisy in here. It's, by the way, keep control here. Not sure, like maybe the car is not liking that I'm in the very middle of the lane. So this is the thing. Yeah, that's another downside of this super cool exterior. I mean, I love this car on the exterior. I would dare even not consider, any thoughts about how expensive or cheap is it and what can it do. I just love it on the exterior. But it does come at a cost, this design, is that you just have this wind that is pushing against the vehicle, and it gets noticeably noisier. Yeah, and then some slower and more cornery driving. See here, the steering from the form is a little bit odd, I would say, because it's so large on the top part. You can get used to it, however. Then again, this off-roadish driving behavior you also, of course, feel when you're driving a little bit slower, definitely. Like this. I wouldn't say it's imprecise. I mean, it's like here also small commands are transported on the road. However, once again, vehicles that are also set up for off-roading are usually in a way that you have to steer a little bit more. So it's not like one-to-one progressive steering on the road, that the 90-degree corner would be 90-degree steering. So you always have to do a little bit more, and the reason behind that is because when off-roading, and the ground is changing in a way, then it shouldn't, rip off your thumbs, from the inside of the steering wheel. Of course, you should always keep your thumbs on the steering wheel when off-roading, And here also, when you're driving a little bit slower, then you also don't feel too much of that, of the wind noise and so on. And here, for example, on the speed hump, that's really cool to have this. Let's now drive a little quicker over it. Yeah, that's cool, when you have this off-roadish vehicle, then these speed humps also get, less aggressive in a way. Here also, once again, from the engine, it sometimes is a little bit mixed, then it's loud again and silent. Then again, when you're driving a little bit slower, told it earlier as well, then you can also make use of that hybrid train, and not always, sometimes here and there, then you drive all electric and it's fine. Consumption went a little bit up now. When we're driving 120 kilometers an hour on the motorway, like 70 miles an hour, now closer to 6 liters on 1 kilometers. Yeah, so more than in the 40 mpg US region, 50 mpg UK region. But yeah, that's something around that where you will land up, at the end of the day. So as soon as you drive a little bit quicker, then, going back to the initial question, you feel it's more like affordable or cheap vehicle. When you drive a little bit slower, more have low speed and so on. And of course, when you go off-road, then you say like, whatever, it's like no problem at all. Why should I spend more money? So what about the pricing? A very entry-level version, I have the German prices already, 19,000 euros, will be similar across Europe for the LPG version and kind of like naked trim-wise. So you stay indeed under 20,000 euros, which is super impressive on nowadays car market. As the vehicle stands here right now, with the hybrid, also then high trim, the extreme, something above 27,000 euros, still remaining under 30,000 euros, is still very good and very affordable in comparison to other cars on the market. Note that today's average priced car is around 50,000 euros or dollars, and sometimes even above that when you take extra equipment and so on. So this is still very remarkable as for the offering. But what is a compromise? Design-wise, I think no compromise. It just looks great. I would buy it for the looks alone. Yes, definitely. Interior, you do have some compromises. When you're rattling, shaking things, the materials are more simple. Things are not that more stable and so on. Also crash test safety-wise, it doesn't have the best crash test ratings Dacia as a whole, you know. Sometimes it also depends on less assistance systems as standard and so on, but also in concise hardware crash tests, they don't score the best ratings. You just have to know that. Then again, some customers say, hey, I'm moving it in slower speeds in the city anyways. It's not that important that it is more crash safety at higher speeds and so on. So you can argue pro and con, but also comes at a cost there in that respect. Also, the engines are more sluggish, yes. It does not give you a real good performance. You cannot expect that for that price, at least then in this very segment. You have to know about that. And the driving feel is really off-roadish alike. It is, you know, kind of wobbly, at least at higher speeds. Then again, it gives you good off-road performance. So because on the exterior, yeah, I mean, it does promise you off-road features and it holds it also while driving it. You have to know that. So still, I think at that price, it's a cool proposition. It has so much character. That's what I love about these vehicles. But you have to know what disadvantages also come at that price and then make up your mind if that's fine for you or not.
So which one would you choose and why? Tell me in the comments. So as for the Toyota Corolla Cross, it is among these vehicles here already a little bit larger, has a lot of space on the interior, and especially on the Northern American market, it is sold at a ridiculously cheap price. However, it's also a low entry-level version. In Europe, they have a different strategy and sell it at a much higher price actually, but then it's already higher trim. However, still, as for the money you pay and for the space you get on the interior, it's a very good relation. And of course, Toyota has, once again, one of the best long-term reliability figures. The Toyota Yaris Cross is very popular in Europe because it's very small yet reliable and also has very good fuel economy and also good riding quality. The Lexus LBX, same platform, it's just a little bit more posh from the design, exterior and interior, and a little bit better dampening actually, so also good. The Toyota CHR is actually size-wise a little bit above that. Yet again, due to this expressive exterior design, it doesn't offer so much more space. However, the platform itself feels a little bit more elaborated than the other smaller one. The VW T-Roc is also among the most popular SUVs in Europe, also always a bestseller in Germany especially. So it's very, very popular in the sales figures. Why? Well, it doesn't give you too much size on the exterior, but already gives you a lot of size in the interior as well. So this ratio is also quite nice and it drives very well. It is on the Golf platform and it literally drives like a Golf, just a put-up Golf, so to speak. On the Northern American market, they offer the VW Taos, and this one kind of feels very similar. However, the T-Roc is a little bit more upmarket in the feel, whereas the Taos looks a little bit dated in comparison. The Honda HR-V is here in this comparison test basically the best one. As for the relation from exterior space to interior space, it's always astonishing how much interior space Honda can get out of these size relations, and the HR-V that is sold in Europe is also, to me, the superb vehicle. If you also compare it to the ZR-V, which is then sold as HR-V in the Northern American market, the only thing that this one is offering more is a longer trunk, but the rest doesn't really offer much more space on the interior, and I also feel that the Honda HR-V looks somehow better and also is somewhat better usable on the interior, once again, besides the longer trunk. The Nissan Juke is a very colorful, funny fellow, definitely, and is also sold at a very attractive price, also in Europe, and especially in Europe, where the prices are going more and more and more up. Yeah, that's also an interesting alternative for sure, and AJ has taken a detailed look here for us at the Nissan Juke. The Dacia Duster is a very unique fellow here in this vehicle review because, well, some reviewers do hype it a lot. And yes, the exterior is great, it has these off-road features, it's also, popular for off-road driving, and the interior in this new generation has also been upgraded a lot. However, driving-wise, it is clearly by much distance the worst vehicle in this test, and I wonder why not so many other reviewers pointed out, if they're just riding this hype and just reading press text info or something, but the Dacia Duster is in driving really bad. just have to say that yes, it's also sold at a very attractive price and often way cheaper than the competitors, for example. But yet again, you also feel that, especially while driving, from the engines, from the wind noise, also how stable it is on the motorway and so on. Won't play much effect if you primarily drive in the city, but it will when you drive a little higher speeds, countryside roads, and especially on the motorway. So these are all details or my few cents here to these individual vehicles, but which one would I take home at the end of the day? Just from the styling, design-wise, I really like the Toyota Yaris Cross, I have to say, together with the Lexus LBX. Which one you take, it really depends on the price. The LBX a little bit better dampening maybe, but they're also very, very close both. The Honda HR-V, as I said, is great because it has this excellent ratio. If you don't want a long vehicle, if you have maybe parking problems inside a congested area, in a city area and so on, yet again want maximum space on the inside, then the HR-V is just excellent, I have to say. I really like that, especially about the Honda HR-V, so this one also makes a lot of sense. If you consider all the aspects like reliability, price you pay, and the space you get also, then the most logical choice in this review is, however, the Toyota Corolla Cross, especially on the Northern American market, because it's, as I said initially, almost ridiculously cheap for what it offers, and you can really buy this and keep it for a long time. On the European market, you really have to see, because it's way higher than list price, it's only sold as high trim, doesn't make sense from the price, and also consider some leasing offers and so on, because the leasing thing has become bigger and bigger, and sometimes more the leasing rate plays a bigger role than the actual list price. And I think, the Toyota Corolla Cross, especially in this new upgraded generation, it also looks kind of off-roadish, kind of strong. Basically a small RAV4, and that's why it's also very, very successful worldwide. So this is my pick here for today. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. And which one would you pick? And feel free to join us for more comparison reviews.